Guys. Hi, guys. What's up? Guys, sorry I'm late. I'll tell you why. Because as I was realizing I was going to be late, I was formulating a hypothesis about, well, it's like this. All right. I'm a kind of do everything last minute kind of guy. So, like, when I get ready to do this show on Sunday mornings, I come up with a thumbnail and all that, like, a half an hour before I go live and whatnot. So that's just how I roll. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do it days in advance, especially if I have a guest. I'll put up a watch page. But many times I'm, just doing it right before. And today on my phone, if you guys have, I'm not going to bore you for too long with this because this comes around to guitar stuff in a second here. But I use the camera app on my phone, the Photos app, and I use a program called Bazzart, Bazzart, in order to make thumbnails for YouTube. If you do any kind of thumbnails or any kind of, you need to do any kind of graphic stuff, it's really great as far as apps go. So, but you need to import like a photo into Bazzart to get started, right? To make a thumbnail. So I found one I wanted to use, but it was way back in my camera roll from like 2-3 months ago. So what I'll do generally, because when you go into Bazzart and you're like, which photo do you want to use? You can pick a photo or whatever, and you can't go back that far. And so I'll just text it to myself, right? Or email or whatever. I'll just text it to myself, and then I'll just resave it on the camera roll. It takes 2 seconds, easy. And then I can get it into Bazzart, super easy. So I was trying to do that, and I kept trying to save the photo. Like, I texted it to myself, that worked. I tried to save it out of the text, save image, save image, save image. Wouldn't go into Photos, just wouldn't. And when that happens, using my phone and apps on my phone and stuff, I don't know about you guys, because I'm interested in what you guys think about this, but I feel my blood pressure rise, and I get so pissed off that I want to break the phone. And then I think, anger management, control yourself. But I get really frustrated really quickly when the tech that we've all come to rely on doesn't work, and there's no reason for it, there's no reason for it. I texted myself the photo again and then tried to save it again. Then I emailed it to myself. My camera app, or whatever, the photo app on my iPhone, just would not save photos this morning out of either email or out of, it just wouldn't work. And anyway, first world problems, right? But it was just so frustrating. And then I started laughing and just going, God, you're so, this is such, when we're doing this stuff, we're so in digital land that you're inside it and you're not being present. You're totally unaware of the world around you and whatnot. And you're just in this world trying to make this thing work, right? So whatever, I just took a new photo in 2 seconds when I got here and put up the thumbnail and whatever. That's why I'm 10 minutes late, because I literally spent 10-15 minutes trying to figure this out. I gotta make this work, That's the other thing you get. I don't know if you're like me, but you're like, I am gonna figure this out and I'm gonna make it work. So anyways, I'm bringing this around to music stuff because I think this applies for anybody listening that designs stuff and whatnot. The less that we have to do on this thing, to me these days, the better. I really dislike it. It's this thing that we're all tethered to, and you get your screen time notification every week telling you you're up 2 hours this week a day or whatever we're on, and I just really dislike the thing these days. I mean, it's like this necessary tethered thing that we all have, right? And it's so frustrating. But anyways, it's part of what I really like about the quad Cortex. And it's funny because I see some guys say that they wish that it had an editor and all that. And I'm like, I'm glad it doesn't have an editor right now. I don't think they've come out with an editor yet, right? Am I missing something? Because I don't even want the editor. I like that I can do everything on the thing. And with Guitar Gear, I just feel like the less that I have to rely on, that, and the more that I can just turn a knob and get to the point of it sounding great. I mean, I love the Phase 90 for a reason, because it's one friggin' knob. I like the Brian May Vox amp because it's one knob. And I'm just headed more and more in that direction recently when it comes to tech and art, getting to the sounds and stuff. It's part of why I still love tube amps. It's a part of why we designed the PT-15 and made it the way that we did, with just enough technology to be, really usable and versatile and modern, but still tube amp with knobs, and I just that kind of analog interface to the world or whatever, I just really, really love these days. So if anybody's watching that develops gear, just less focus on the apps and more make it. I met with Greg Wells this week, who's an incredibly talented musician. He's produced everybody from One Republic to Adele to all sorts of folks on this. I did the new Kim Mitchell album, which is how we ended up connecting, and it was just such a pleasure to meet him. He made a comment, and I'm going to forget exactly what he said because he said it so eloquently, but over breakfast he said, making things like he said something like elegantly simple is really, really hard. And I believe that to be true. Steve Jobs was really great at it. My first laptop before I had my Mac was a PC laptop, and I could not even figure out how to really do anything on it, to be honest. I'm a bit of a tech, for as much as people think of me, using all the XFXs and the Helixes and stuff like that, and recording the computer stuff. I'm a bit of a tech phobe, or like just kind of learn how to use it enough to get by kind of guy to do what I want to do, because I don't really enjoy it, as I've been harping on for the last 10 minutes. But anyways, what was my point? Just Greg said that making things like, something along the lines of like an elegantly simple, and, he's talking about products and plugins and, the way that he came about to that, around to that statement was, I love his plugin. I brought it up before, so I'm gonna give a plug to his plugin, no pun intended, on my show here, which is the Greg Wells Mix Centric plugin from Waves. It's $49. I've talked about it in my clinics. If you've ever seen me do a clinic, it is the best on the master bus. And also he's got voice centric, so like some different, these are one knob plugins that you can just pull up on a channel, and it's literally like a great big knob that you just turn up for more, and it's doing tons of stuff under the hood as you're bringing that control up. Multiband compression, EQ, like all kinds of stuff is going on as you're doing that, but it's just a one knob, make it sound better plugin. And I love it. I really do. And I use it on almost every mix that I do. That's the Mix Centric plugin from Waves, his signature plugin. Put it on the master bus and tell me it doesn't just make everything instantly, especially when you're working fast and you've got to get, things done. You got to get a mix done in a couple of hours or something like that. It's really great for just making things sound good and balanced, and without having to pull up multiple plugins for EQ, compression, everything, spending time on each one, So it's a really terrific, it's a little, simple secret of mine. If you like, what I do or my mixes, it might be something that you want to check out. Thrash Metal Studio says that he owns, I'm going to get to that super chat up there in just 2 seconds. He says, I own 7 tube and 2 solid state heads and no plugins. Having said everything I just said, I'm not like discounting. Look, my plugin, okay, I love my plugin because it's so damn easy. It looks like the amp, and there's not a lot of options or whatever, and it pulls up. I requested the speaker sim that it actually pulls up on be the default because it sounds great, and I know that you don't have to do anything. As a matter of fact, if you have my plugin and you try it, just try the setting that is the, it's like Pete's 3-channel basic or whatever it's called. There's a preset in there that you'll find that's like my 3 channels all set up on the cab sim that I like and stuff like that. And tell me that's it. I mean, for me, it just works great with simple knob tweaks from wherever I had it. You'll probably be able to find a cool tone, I think. I'm not opposed to all, like I say, Greg Wells plugin, is great. Max in general, pretty great. But whatever was going on with the phone this morning drove me insane. I just don't want to have to do this stuff that much. I want to be able to get from point A to point B really quickly. And when I guess my main point with the apps and stuff is I'm more thinking kind of the microcosm of like when developers make an app to edit. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to me, to get into, whatever, be it a model or be it an effect pedal or something. I'm not really a big fan of plug the thing into either the computer or the phone to have to get to things that I wish I could just do with a knob on the thing. I just don't like it, I recognize it's that this is old man, shaking stick at the sky and all that, but just thought I'd bring it up and have a little discussion about it because I think it's it's important as things get more, we advance more and more, and there's more and more tech always coming at us, more and more learning curves. And it's like developers think maybe that we want it, and sometimes we don't, but I'm also not 20 years old, and, so take it all with a grain of salt, right? Arthur Gonzalez, what's up, man? You're going to dig what I sent you in your email earlier. I was with Phil X not long ago, got to wear different hats aside from playing. Cool. I shot video, did my photography. What I sent is something you'll appreciate. Awesome. Hey, and thanks for the super chat. I will check it out, Arthur. Is it to my regular mail? I wonder. I will take a look. A couple of super chats. There's one from Modern Vintage. Less really is more. PT50 single channel, single knob. Hey, these are things that we're working on, like other, it's no secret. I think we're always working on stuff. And actually, yeah, PT50. I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, there's going to be the it's not like in like a single channel, that we've been talking about doing, but it's going to be easy to use, like no harder to use than the PT15, really, although it's different. So it's got its own thing going on. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. And here's one from Joe. He says, if you had to pick just one chorus in pedal format that sounds good, clean, and dirty, what would it be? I've got a couple favorites, to be honest. I really like that new Tricera chorus that is from Eventide that I showed in a recent demo video I did. It's a great sounding tri-chorus if that's what you want. The Nuniber Inspire, I think that's what it's called. Their mod chorus pedal is really, really nice in a small format. I mean, it's the size of a Phase 90, a ton of sounds in there, and they don't make anything I don't like. So they're a great company. The other one that you see pop up in my videos and I used recently is this one. And I really love this thing, the Anodyne from Providence. It's an analog chorus that just sounds beautiful. Yeah, so you can see it in I don't even remember, what's the recent video I did with it? Something, I don't know. Oh, the High Watt video where I copped kind of an Alex Lifeson thing with it. And I thought it sounded just great for that sound. If you like CE1, CE2 kind of sounds, it's just got a warmth to it that's really nice. And they do give you this deep switch, which is essentially the delay time. And all the way up is too much to me, but the middle one is really lush and great. And then the down one's a little more subtle and totally usable as well. So, and who knows, you might like the really radical top. The more delay time you add to the chorus, the more sort of diffuse and, I don't know, modulated, I guess. Excuse me. I'm having an episode. So what do we got on here? Depth, speed, and mix for the other controls. Super basic, but with that added delay time, it just gives you, added flexibility. Now, this is it's mono, right? Yeah, it is mono. And, it's mono, so whatever. But, I kind of wish in a way that it was stereo. Here's one that I pulled out the other day, and I actually didn't even plug it in, but this is a cool pedal too, the Retrosonic. This is basically a CE1, I think. It's got a switch here to do chorus vibrato. I think they still make this. I'm not 100% sure, but Retrosonic. There's a fellow up in Canada. Very, very nice guy in Canada. And that he did a really nice favor for me once. I still owe him for that. So Retrosonic, if you're out there, I owe you a pedal demo or something. Anyways, that's a good one. The Sir is it the Alexa, I believe, is also very nice. That's a good one. 2 channels, and you can set up 2 different sounds. And yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Knobs over screen, says Eric. I agree, my friend. That's the truth. That's the biggest knock on the H9. Yeah, so, and I have 2 of them on my board, right? So that's the, but I think you see with them bringing out the individual pedals, like the micro pitch and the Tricera chorus and stuff, which are very popular. I think, I think they've done well with those. That there's they recognize that there's a segment that maybe doesn't want to deal with the apps and stuff and the, getting into it. And it's like, it's just kind of, it's, I love them, but the app is not fun for me. I will say that, it's not, I wish they made it with knobs. I wish there was a way that I could get to everything Like if it was okay, what if it was a pedal that was the size even of their old, Mod Factor? You remember the bigger format kind of pedals that they made before the H9? What if each one had like a little digital underneath, each knob that came up depending on the algorithm you were on, but it was all knobs, right? Kind of like, what if on a Strymon pedal, what if Strymon made an all-in-one that if you call, like, say the size of the Mobius, or I'm looking at the Mobius right now, if each knob was a digital encoder, and if underneath each knob it had, like, it said depth or speed or whatever, but digitally, right? And then when you call up different algorithms, that pops up under each one, and you just encode with a nice rotary visual thing, and then push store, move on to the next. Like, what if it was something like, wouldn't that be badass? Like, so that you could just do all your sounds like right there on the thing, with enough knobs. Let's say it's got 2 rows of 4 knobs, so 8 knobs. What's on a, let's see, 1, 2, no, it's 3, or it's 3 and 2 on a sort of 4 and 2 really on a Mobius, right? Or on the timeline and all that. I don't know. I wish these companies would actually get in touch with me, because I try all this stuff, and it's like occasionally they do. Obviously, I design stuff for some companies, the signature stuff I have and all that. But I would love it if, like, hey, if there's a Strymon or a Nunaber, or somebody wants to make a badass digital box, get in touch with me and let's do it together, because I swear to God, I will help you make it better. Out of just the selfish reason of not even like wanting a commission or something like that out of the, I just want what I want, like, in order to make the sounds that I want. I swear, after trying everything, I could make something that's like ergonomic and like just the ease of use and the flow with no editors, but has all the options, So anyways, I would love that. But anyways, I'm on a tear. You guys with your super chats, thank you. Appreciate that. Lonnie, how do you incorporate time-based effects in your studio setup? And Pete, effects loop. No, so I do most of those in the computer. And I've got a very slick, sort of elegant way of doing it that I'll tell you in a sec. Out of a reactive load to effects or DAW, out of effects loop, each amp. Okay, no. So as far as in the studio, I do it the old school way, which is, inside in the box. I mean, it used to be you'd have a rack of studio gear, and you'd have a send on the console to send out to that gear, and they would come back into returns, right? So, Eddie Van Halen adding harmonizer to his guitar, let's say, and for the, OU812 record or the 5150 record, he wouldn't run his full rig and do the harmonizer that way, as I understand it. I think maybe later on so I digress, but in those days when he was in the studio, 1984, whatever, you can see the harmonizers and the stuff in his rack. So what he's doing is he's recording the amp in the cabinet, right? Mic on the cabinet, no time-based effects, unless he's using the Echoplex in front, but no digital stuff, right? And then you send out of the console, that sound goes to the, it's getting the signal off the mic on the cabinet. That signal goes to the harmonizer and then comes back into the effect return. You pull the return up on the console, and there's your stereo harmonizer. Well, that's what we do now in the box, right? So I've got, if you were to look at my Logic template, I've got, which is, I pull up to start pretty much every project. I've got a template. On each channel, I've got sends. The first send is going to a mono, straight up the middle quarter note delay. The send number 2 is going to a split stereo 250, 500 millisecond kind of thing, or whatever I can time it to the song. The third is going to a reverb, and the fourth is going to micro pitch, so that I could widen things if I want to. So I can instantly in the console just turn that up and do that. Now, if I want a different effect, I can, like, than any of those 4 I just listed, those are the most common stuff that I would add. I'll just pull up the, I can either add another send to the channel where I want something, or I can, use one of the existing ones and just modify one of those effects, or get rid of it entirely and use a different plugin. But that's the main way I do it. Now, having said that, I do have my power station over here that if I'm recording through like my cab in the other room, everything's, all the heads here, everything's running into the power station first, so that I can bring the volume down going to the cab in the other room. So, 50 watt Marshall or 100 watt, I don't need blasting my old vintage cabinet in the other room. The power station sounds so good that I'll put it in line and drop the volume like half, and then miking in the other room. Now the power station has an effects loop in it, so I've got a Korg SDD 3000 delay here. Is it SDE or SDD? I always mix that up. SDD, right? One of those big Korg delay pedals, that they came out with about 10 years ago. And I've got that in the loop of the power station, so I can do a simple mono delay if I want to and track it. I'll occasionally do that, but it's 15% of the time. It's also just so that I can play and jam and have a little delay if I want to. It's not even necessarily for recording. If I just want to sit here and practice through the cab in the other room, I can have a little echo, post distortion. Having said all that, one other thing that I do is I use the aux occasionally. So contradicting myself about technology, because I still like the aux, and I think it works really well, especially for doing like Vox cab tones, if I'm doing any combo open back, and especially if I want some room mic stuff, because the room mic simulation in the aux is really great. It works really well. So if I want to get some air around the sound, because I don't have the ability to really do room mics with my room over there, it's an isolated cabinet. So I'll use the aux for that. And occasionally I will add the plate reverb or the delay, or maybe mod, using the kind of the delay, which can also double as a mod thing. And I'll print that in Logic. And I did that like on Pete Thorn too. Some of the sounds were aux done in my old apartment. And because I was recording late at night or whatever, any recording I did there was all through either the aux or the reactive load. And I would get a sound I liked with echo or whatever, coming right out of the aux, and I would just record it like that because it sounded good. I like to commit to things. So that's generally how I do it. This is really interesting. Bent Tom says, Even MIDI is already currently making a controller for the H9 with Rotary encoders. That's really cool. I would be down with playing with that. It would probably make me explore more sounds in my H9, I think. Because I love the H9, honestly. It's just I don't like always using an app, I really enjoy the H9 sounds. I mean, Eventide stuff is great. So that's why I've got two of them, That's how much I like the sounds. I think they're really good. So here's a big old super chat from Steven. Wow, thanks, man. You guys too kind. Thank you. You're helping me with the coffee fund. And I appreciate it. I had kind of an expensive week actually, so this is helping me. I went to Catalina, and I'd never been there, and I've been in LA like 30 years, and I've never been to Catalina Island, so I went out there. But it was it's actually very affordable. It's nice if you've never been. I recommend going, and especially going midweek if you don't want crazy and party, young people going nuts and drinking till all hours. It's like, not that I have a problem with that either, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you get to my age, you just want to chill a little, have a little party, and then chill, go to bed by 11:30. I don't know, but it was really beautiful. It was a nice spot, but ended up being spending lots on food and everything. I needed a break, for God's sakes. Anyways, best way to power amp the quad Cortex using the power station. Best way to power amp the quad Cortex using the power station. Okay, never got to catch the show live, so the scratches will deserve. You're too kind, man. Thank you. The train wreck video alone justifies. Wasn't that amp fun? I know that amp is one of the ones that haunts me a little bit. It was definitely it was a really special amp for sure, along with that high watt I just did and stuff. I love getting to try these things, but thank you, Stephen, so much for the super chat. So using the quad Cortex in the power station, you would simply take one of the main outs, either of the four kind of main outputs on the quad Cortex mono, and just run it right into the power amp in on the back of the power station. There's a 1/4 inch in on the back that'll let you kind of line in right into it. And then you could use it to reamp the quad Cortex, which should sound just great. I've never tried it. You're making me think I should try it actually and compare it to the Matrix, because of course I've been doing it like any of those. You might have seen I put up another Van Halen video this week, a Van Halen music video with doing Drop Dead Legs, which I was really happy with the way the guitar sounds on that. And you can hear me using the pitch in the quad Cortex on that, which I wasn't in the previous video for Hot for Teacher. But anyways, that's the Matrix power amp powering 3 cabinets. So, but it'd be interesting to try the power station, try the tube, the tube amp, see what it lends to the sound. Not 100% necessary, really, because everything's kind of baked into the sound, I think, when you're using the quad Cortex with a capture. But yeah, it's just a simple line out of the quad Cortex right into the 1/4-inch line input on the back of the power station. That would work. I wish it was a more complicated answer because I feel like I owe it to you. Thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna just go back through the chat here because I rambled so much, and see if I can find some other questions here. Let's see. All the way back at the beginning. I saw a couple folks from Canada, somebody from BC. I think I'm going to take a trip up to BC pretty soon. It's been a long time since I've been there, and somebody offered to bring me up there for some work, and so I'm excited about that prospect. I love it up there, and I have sort of like dreams of possibly retiring there someday. Retiring, what does that mean? But maybe before too long I would go there. I don't know. I always really like it. It's such a beautiful part of the world, and I always have fun up there. Media Junkie just got to watching Drop Dead Legs last night. Stunned. What a performance. Thanks, man. That one I felt like was really special that night. In a set when you kind of click and you feel like you settle in. And I remember getting into it. Like the beginning is so satisfying to play. It's kind of like, it's kind of delicate, the intro. And then when you settle into the riff and just, when it drops in, you groove, that's a fun song to play, man. I really love that song. And I just feel like we hit our stride on that one, getting into the set, and it was really fun. So yeah, I love playing that. It's the only time I've ever played that song live. Victor says, if you were jamming with in-ears, what amp would you recommend if you want to avoid a digital solution? The PT15. I mean, it gives you can just use it like a regular amp if you want to, or you can just take advantage of the digital back end, the cab synth. But I really enjoy using it through in-ears because the tone is great. In in-ears, and you've got the option there to come out of the line output and add a little bit of stereo to your signal if you want to, which is really nice in in-ears. Like, if you want to come line out and go into some sort of delay pedal that maybe has a that can handle a line level output but has a bit of imaging, in the delay. Like, Strymons will handle quite a bit of output. And if you don't run the amp too hot, you should be okay with that. Or you could go into a DD500 or something, add a little bit of echo, a little something, and then come out of that pedal into a couple DIs and then go to, front of house or whatever. And just a little bit of an image, or, even a little verb, or you can experiment with different things, but it lets you in-ears get some, it's hard to do a stereo rig with a traditional tube amp because generally you need two. But this gives you some options as far as not needing two, that's all. Yeah. This fella's saying just screenshot it. I guess I could have done that this morning with my photo thing. Could have screenshot the photo and then uploaded that. That's a good solution. You're right. It just always works the other way, and it wouldn't. And so I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm trying to make it work. For those just joining, I had a little issues with my iPhone this morning trying to get going on the show today. But anyways, Barnes 1625 over there in Europe. He says he's struggling with the BE100 and PT100 plugin sounding muffled. That's odd. Try maybe you just like the cab sims that are in the neural DSP plugin, so you can disable the amp sim in the neural plugin, right, and then run the BE or the PT in front of it with its cab sim disabled. So now you got the BE100 or PT100 amp sim only activated, right? And then go into the neural and try. You're probably going to find that maybe it's just a thing where you like their particular cab sims, and you find that because they are really good. But I find it interesting that you find it muffled. On the PT, definitely turn on the brights on both the clean channel and the distortion channel in the plugin. Turn on the brights and try the PT 212 cab sims in between. I think it's like number 74 to 78 or something in the cab sims in the plugin, something like that. It's right in there. 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, I think are the 212 that I really like. But yeah, you're going to want to turn on the brights. You're going to want to turn up. I find on the PT, it's like just turn the treble up to like 6, turn the presence up to between 4 and 6, run the feedback between like 4 and 5, somewhere around there, depending on what you want, and definitely turn on the brights. And you should find that that's a really, really balanced, straight up kind of Marshall crunch on channel 2, and a nice sparkly clean if you got the brights on channel 1. If not, it tells me, seems like you almost might have 2 cab sims active or something, but that I don't know your exact setup. But yeah, I do things like this all the time where like, you know, I'll run one plugin into another plugin, and you know, use like if I like a particular cabinet sim in a plugin, I'll just use that, and then I can run another amp sim into it, or even a real amp via load box. You can do things like that. I hope that's helpful. You can try those things. Get back to me and let me know what you find. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Good over-ear headphones for bedroom playing and mixing. I've recommended these quite a bit. These are the Status Audio, I believe is the company, and I always find it really hard to find the name of them because they've got it printed there it is. The SAC. Really? That's not the name. CB1. Status Audio. Status Audio. CB1 headphones. This is a company that I found, or maybe they found me on, I think they offered to send me a pair of these to kind of review and talk about, which I'm doing right now on social media. And they said, you know, we'll send you a pair of these. So disclaimer, they sent me these. I didn't pay for them. But they were like really inexpensive. They're like, I mean, for pro headphones, they're like $69.95, which is like a really, you know, reasonable price, I think. And the reviews were stellar, so I was intrigued. I said, okay, sure, send me some. Lo and behold, these replaced my Sony 7506s, which I'd used for years. Some people like those, some people don't. They're very hyped and kind of bright sounding, but I got used to them, much like people get used to NS10s or something. So anyways, these I find these are just exceptionally good sounding headphones. They have more low end, I feel like they're more balanced overall than the Sonys, which are kind of, you know, sort of light on the bottom end and kind of hyped in the top end, sort of like an NS10 really. But these have great low end. They've got, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, they just seem really balanced to me. So I like these a lot. CB1s, Status. Other than that, I have a pair of Bear Dynamic that I really like. I've got a pair of open back Sennheiser that I really like. And the Audio Technica 80 whatever 50, yeah, they're really common. You see them at Guitar Center. They're closed, you know, they're about $99, I think, something like that. Those are pretty cool too. I find them a little bass heavy, but a lot of people really like them. So there's some suggestions, but I those Status, like, give them a try and tell me they don't sound great. Especially the guitars sound really good. You know, if you're practicing and stuff like that, you want some of them for practicing. James Bell, what's up? What's happening over there in the UK? Have you read Play It Loud by Talinsky and DiPerna, History Electric Guitar? Just got to the EVH bit. Even Les Paul does come across as a bit of a BSer. Good book recommendations. I'm really enjoying the I haven't read this book, by the way, and but thanks for the recommendation. And I'm enjoying the Ted Templeman biography quite a bit. He's an interesting cat, and you get like some insight into what a song guy he is, because he really started off, I mean, he's a musician at the core, you know, he played, he sang, but then he also did a lot of time as a, you know, an A&R and developing artists, and then also production. But he was really fine-tuned into, you know, good songwriting, I think, and song structure and things, which maybe, you know, informs us a little bit about like how he brought kind of Van Halen along and was able to be maybe a part of that process of editing and, distilling things down to a really good, from a production perspective, all the things that a producer does, if you can help a band, distill something down into a song that's really got impact. When I think of like Jamie's Crying or Dance the Night Away or these kinds of songs that, that he must have really, I would think, he was a vocal guy. I think he really, appreciated great singing and hooks and things like that. And so, anyway, it's part of the Van Halen sound, I'm such a Van Halen geek. So I'm really enjoying that book right now. Can you think of any audio and or video examples of EVH playing a Les Paul? Yeah, that's a good question, dude. Not really. I know there's those photos of him playing his 59s, kind of around the 1980-81 period, or 79, 80, 81. There's that white Les Paul Custom. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a video. You're right. It's interesting. There's so few videos of, early Van Halen out there. So, it seems like maybe those, like, who knows how often he even played those Les Pauls. Like, maybe that was just a few shows, and then, like, there was no video taken, of any of them. I don't know if he played them a lot or not, but Benton says, I think I have these, the DT880 Pros. Aren't those the Bear Dynamic headphones? I think. Pretty sure. They are kind of pricey. Honestly, I think these Status CB1s are, as far as, like, especially for a reasonable price, look no further. Yeah. And what else we got here? Let's see. People to the chat, hit that like. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. It does help. Spreads it far and wide across the worldwide interwebs. Okay. Just looking back here through the chat. Some people making suggestions for the fellow with the plugins that couldn't get a handle on the that is, finding them dark, the PT and the BE. Okay, let me go down the bottom of the chat one more time. We got a super chat here. What's the story on the SIG with a Floyd? I don't actually have a signature with a Floyd. You might mean the modern that I have, because it kind of looks like my guitar, but SIG with the Floyd. No, it's way back there. Thorn, get up off your lazy ass and get the guitar and show the guy. Right? There it is. This is a really cool guitar. I got this back. I just realized that I took the screws out of the back plate at some point. I didn't put them back. So now I need to find some pickguard screws. What a dummy I am. But anyways, I do stuff like that. Check it out. It looks cool, right? Root beer metallic is the color with the scrape binding. And this is a Goto Floyd. And I've had this guitar since 2008. It's got the elliptical neck. It plays amazing. What else on this guitar is unique? This is a maple fingerboard. It's roasted maple neck and fingerboard. When they started roasting, they used to go further with it. And this is like one step short of being charcoal, I think. So they don't roast so much anymore. But it looks really cool with the root beer finish, doesn't it? It's like basically the neck matches the... It's friggin' cool. I mean, to think that's a piece of maple. Just remember when roasted maple first came out, and you'd see it real dark. Companies used to go a little further with it, But anyway, I love this guitar, and I keep it in drop C sharp. So it's down, and it's my heavy guitar. It's got Doug Aldrich humbucker set in it, and it's a fast machine with the elliptical neck and the big frets. And I used to play it with. I would play it with Chris Cornell, like a few songs. That I would pull it out for. He never liked it. I remember that. He would make jokes about it. One time on stage, or it was like at a sound check, and I was trying a new speaker cabinet from Port City, and I was playing it going, Dad, listen to the speaker cabinet. Doesn't it sound good? Like, because it was so clear sounding, this Port City cabinet. And Cornell goes, well, Get a real guitar so I can really hear what it sounds like. And I was like, what the fuck? So, I went and got my Les Paul or whatever, but he liked Les Pauls and like, he didn't like Floyd Roses and stuff like that. It's not his bag, obviously look at his signature guitar, 335 with, Filtertrons and stuff. Right. So get a real guitar. It's always, he was a smart ass. Greg Martz. So Chris Cornell dissed this guitar one day while I was playing it. That's right. Yeah. That always made me self-conscious about playing it after that, like with him. It was like I always like he was probably like up there singing, looking at me with a slight look of disapproval, or even just thinking it, Anyway, Bill, dude, Jesus, you guys with the super chats. Thank you guys. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Too kind. And you too, John. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And for your question, making me recount that story about the disdain from the boss. There's a video of Yngwie playing a Les Paul. That's interesting. Sounds much the same. Yeah, I would assume. He always frowned on, humbuckers. Seemed to always bag on people that use humbuckers. But, I'm sure he's got to have a couple Les Pauls around or something, right? I think I've seen that video, actually. It was weird looking, right? Him playing that. Do you still buy pedals or guitars? I do. I mean, generally, for me these days, it's like I bought my Destroyer, my Ibanez Destroyer a while back. And, it's like if I mean, I keep my kind of relationships with, companies like Sir and stuff like that. On the down low or whatever, like my relationship with them as far as how I do things, but know that I certainly like working for things. So like, let's say companies will do a lot of things these days with people, just for those out there that are interested in this kind of stuff when it comes to endorsements and things like that. They'll expect a certain, many times these days, it's like they'll actually send you a contract that's got a list of things like, 5 social media posts on Instagram throughout the year of like, if you do this, 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 and this, and this, we'll compensate you this way. So it's you scratch our back and we'll scratch yours kind of thing. But I don't, it's like, to me, it's like, if they come out with a, their delay pedal, for instance, or something like that, I'll just make videos for them. I'm, it's no secret, like I earn a living doing this stuff, but those guys help me out so much with things that it's like anything that, stuff I have no, relationship with that they make, like I don't have any development input or anything like that on really, or whatever. I'm just happy to help them however I can. So like through making videos or whatever, so that goes on too, so the waters get gray of how do you pay for things, but I guess that's paying for equipment in a certain way. But anyways, like I'll, totally go out and still buy guitars and stuff that I want, I mean, I don't really feel like I need anything these days, but that Destroyer is like, I got that thing. I drove to Huntington Beach and I bought it in a parking lot from a guy that showed up in a pickup truck, and I checked it out and I was like, oh wow, and I handed him a lot of cash for the guitar, and I still, do things like that because it's I don't know, every now and then there's just something that you really want or buy. I buy stuff all the time. I bought that Germino to have modded, that Marshall, I got not that, well, I guess it was years ago now, but it doesn't feel like that long ago. This top hat that's up here, I bought because that came through Dave Friedman's place, and a guy was liquidating a whole bunch of gear, and he just wanted Dave to go through things and stuff, and I was like, damn, I used to have one of those and it was so good. And then I played it and I was like, oh, it's great, and he did me a nice deal on it, so I got that. So I've got a bunch of stuff in the last year, I guess, that I just kind of wanted, Turns out the PT100 cab sims weren't a problem. Turning power soak up from where it was at 18 dB completely fixed my issue. That's interesting. Strange. Because I find the power soak shouldn't change the tone really that much. It generates just it's an overall output master volume, I think, on the plugin. But anyways, whatever works. Whatever, maybe it does. I don't know. I always thought it would just change the volume of the plugin. What else have we got here? Let's see. Here's another one from Jack Frost. What's up? Just got a Mexican Charvel Pro Mod, roasted maple neck, good fretwork, go to 510, fairly affordable. Do you have any favorite cheap guitars? I think Charvel does a nice job. I think they're really good, actually, what you've got there. It's, I think it's really similar, if not the same factory that's making the EVH stuff, which I think is quite nice. And who else? I think Yamaha makes really good guitars for the dough. They do nice work, like those Rev Star. I got to check some of those out a while ago, and I thought they were really pretty impressive guitars. They do nice fretwork and good stuff for the money. I always thought the PRS SE stuff, the stuff like the Tremonti SE or these guitars that I've occasionally picked up that come from Korea, I think are quite nice. Capture the essence of a good PRS guitar. I think Vital Nomads, what's up? Love your show. Thank you for being here. Speaking of Floyd's, do you ever notice a tinny sound coming from the B and the E? Tried a big brass big block, still hear it. A Floyd definitely has a sound, and they do kind of change the sound, and I don't know if I would describe it as tinny or not, but they definitely have their own thing, and it's just kind of part of the thing, even just when we think about a 6-screw bridge with all those points where the, sound is, or a 2-post big old heavy thing, it's a different, like it's going to vibrationally affect the way that things happen and stuff, and I think Eddie Van Halen always, in the beginning, he was like, oh, I got an EQ to get my tone now, because they have a thin sound was the way he described it. I don't know if it's thin or just, maybe it's like you say, a couple of the strings are tinny. But it's definitely a different sound. Leon, thank you, man, for the super chat. You guys are too kind. Any recommendations on really good earplugs? Earvana, I think they're called. They're pretty cool. Need to manage my tinnitus, but can't go in-ear monitor mix. Did I show you these last week? Speaking of which is maybe not exactly what you're asking, but these are these in-ears that I'm trying that have little microphones. I think I showed this last week, but in the can you see it there? See, it's the little what's that round part of the end of the in-ear? That's actually a microphone. So these are in-ears. These are the generic ones, but you can get these as molds, and these have an ambient feature. That's the main thing with these, where the mics actually pick up the sound. You can mix in the ambient signal as loud as you want with so this is almost like an active earplug. You could actually put this in. This would be the ultimate of what you want. You put these in and then turn down, because you've got the mics in there, and you can have it even louder than like almost like a hearing aid, louder than what you can hear, or you can turn it down to any level. So that's kind of cool. They're made by I think it's ASI. Is that the company? So like a division of Sensiphonics. Yeah. Really, really great. But yeah, Earvana, I think, make nice kind of ambient earplugs. I've got some Westone ones as well that are custom molds that have, either 9 or 15 dB filters that you can switch out. I've lost them. I don't know where they are, but they're around somewhere. If you were playing a single channel amp like an old Marshall, what pedal would you use if you wanted to get close to 5153 lead tone? I was going to say the MXR EVH pedal. That is really the one that, Eddie, evidently, they tried it where they would just run the pedal into the effect return of the 5153, I think, and make it sound the same, or, so that is really the closest one for what you want. You kind of got to run it into probably the normal channel on an old Marshall to get it to, or at least jumper. But barring that, another one, there's a lot of great, the Empress Heavy, I think it's called, is a really good sounding distortion box that would do that quite well. The Empress Heavy, I think it's called. I made a video of it a number of years ago. The Agnator Black Metal. I don't even know if they make that anymore, but that's another one that comes to mind. Oh, the number 5 drive from, I've got one here. Woo Man, I'm sorry I haven't made your video yet, but it's coming. Here's one for the latest iteration of his pedal. Number 5 drive from, I get a little confused because they've got a lot of I think he sent me serial number 01 of this one. 000 01A 000. Anyways, Cinvertech is the company. Cinvertech number 5 drive, and this is the latest version of it. You can see all the switches and all the, this is like an amp like distortion in a box that is very, very truthfully amp like and really, really good. His pedals are pretty amazing. So this is a great one to try if you've never tried one of his pedals. Kind of amazingly amp-like, everyone he's come out with a number of different versions, probably 4 different, iterations of this pedal over the years. It's a full, it's a volume gain, a couple switches here to mix up the tone. And then this is a full 3-band EQ with also resonance and presence. So it's got all the controls of a 5150. And he just makes great pedals. So Cinvertech is the company. CKK also. They make pedals under the Cinvertech name and the CKK name. And I don't know why the two companies and how they differentiate, but Cinvertech seems to be mainly the kind of distortion pedals from that company. Yeah. Okay. Did I miss any of these super chats from you guys? I hope not. I hope I got them all. And let's see. Do you offer any tutorials on your recording process, specifically drum programming I struggle with? I haven't really done that so far. I should probably do that. But I will tell you that I use mainly Superior Drummer 3. And I've got a lot of the expansion packs for it, so that you get more grooves and more drum sounds, with every expansion pack you get. So I've got the rock one, Bob Rock. I've got the Metal Foundry one, which is great for metal. A bunch of, great drum sounds in there, as well as, comes with tons of grooves. So it's an all-in-one thing with the Superior Drummer. You've got a whole bunch of grooves in there. You got a whole bunch of drums. You've got them all, pre-loaded as kits. You load them up, and then you can mix on a mixer, balance the drums. But they come pretty balanced as it is usually, when you load up a kit. And the way that I do it is I'll start playing a riff, figure out my groove, whatever. I'll set the tempo in Logic, get that going. And then you tap in. There's a thing called tap to find within the plugin. You tap in a groove that you think is close to what you want on the kick and the snare. And if you want to tap in a hi-hat too, or tap in the ride, as long as it's sort of close to, and then it'll spit out a whole bunch of grooves that are close to whatever you just tapped in. And it'll give you the percentage. Like it'll say it's 98%, of what you just tapped in, or 86% or whatever. And it'll be like one kick is a little bit different than what you just tapped in or whatever, but close, right? And that gives you, and then there's a thing called the song creator, and you'll find one of those grooves. Like, yeah, that's basically what I want right there. You take that, pull that into the song creator, and now it gives you a whole bunch of intros, verses, choruses, bridges, fills, outros that are all sort of similar to that, but with variation to that groove that you just. So literally that's how I do it. I don't do a hell of a lot of like drawing in my own drums. Because I don't need to. It's like with the amount of, I've got literally thousands and thousands of grooves within Superior Drummer 3 that I can pull up and make work, generally speaking, and it's like, I'm comfortable writing to something too. So like, I don't have to, it's not like, oh, it has to be like this fills, this is what I want, or this groove exactly. I'll tap in, get close to what I want, and then I'll pull that groove into Logic and start playing over it. And the way that, much like working with a real drummer, it's like you might modify your riff a little bit, because you're like, oh, well, that groove's a little different than what I had in mind, but that's cool. I'll just go like this with the riff. And then it kind of informs the way that your writing goes. And then, you might listen to one of the other grooves that's spit out in the song creator for bridge or chorus or whatever, and it might be halftime. You're like, oh, that's cool. What if I went here now? And then so it's kind of like a cyclical thing where it helps you write, and you think you know what you want, but then it might steer you down a different road, and it could turn out cooler than what you were going to do. So that's kind of the way I approach it. But really, it's Superior Drummer. Just watch the EVH Tone Talk, Modern Vintage. Thanks for the super chat. Did EVH prefer batteries and pedals? No. I don't think so. Yeah, not that I know of. Maybe early on, but like later on, he definitely just used all power supplies for his, I mean, any rig that he used ever since, certainly since Friedman started doing his rigs well over 20 years ago, were all just, everything on power supplies. As far as I know, maybe Dave will correct me on that, but I don't, in the early days, he might have done the battery thing. But, you got to keep in mind, like with those early pedal boards and stuff, before he found Bradshaw in the early 80s, probably it was maybe Rudy helping do his boards. I mean, when you look at his boards, they're like a mess, and most people's were back then. The only guy doing pro rigs back then was really Cornish, and Eddie certainly never did a Cornish rig. So he might have had issues with power, like, what was around for power. I mean, an early Phase 90 didn't even have a power jack on it, right? Mini pedals didn't. My early Phase 90 that's on my Quad Cortex board now has a modified AC power, so it's coming out of one of the screw holes on the bottom. Friedman did it for me, so you can modify it without having to drill into the pedal. And I'll probably switch out that pedal just because I did find it like a little bit cumbersome not having a light on the pedal. To you got to use your ear to know if it's on. Vintage Phase 90. But anyways, I digress. Hey, thank you 777 Daddy for the super chat. I appreciate that. Anyways, you just made me think that maybe that's why he used a 9-volt in the Phase 90 because he had to. There was no power jack on it in the early days. You guys are mentioning Progressive Foundry for Superior Drummer. I agree. I've got that one as well, and I love that one. Progressive Foundry, Metal Foundry, and Rock Foundry. I think it's called the Bob Rock collection. I use those all quite a bit. You might think the Bob Rock one would be like super modern all the way through, but there's that mono kit in there. Anybody that's got it, it's called Mono Kit, I think, and it's like super vintage sounding. And just kind of like it's only a few mics, and it's really cool. There's a lot of variety in there. Another super chat from Greg. Recently saw an interview with Jewel. Can you talk a bit about your time supporting her and what period was it? Yeah, there's some videos of me playing with her. If you Google anything or YouTube anything from 2006, there was a song called Good Day. You can see me playing with her, like on TV shows. I think Craig Kilborn or something that we did. There's a video of us doing that. And some other shows, maybe I think there's something of me on Lano on the Tonight Show with her from that period. But yeah, it was 2006, and she was super cool, really funny, kind of a smart ass, total, kind of a badass, like as you would expect a woman that grew up in Alaska and then moved to California and lived in a van for a while and stuff would be. Knows how to take care of herself, doesn't take any crap, but really funny and sweet too, all at the same time. Like nice, really actually nice disposition. And I had a cool kind of like, many times when you play with people, you get a new appreciation for them, even if maybe you weren't a fan before or whatever. You realize like why they are where they're at and why they've done so well. And with her, the thing that I came to realize was that she really flourishes or can do just no wrong when she's on her own, like in other words with no band behind her. She's really kind of not a rocker. She's more like a singer-songwriter, and she's great with a guitar telling stories all by herself, and she can be very entertaining, which is that's the scariest thing in the world to me. But stick a guitar in her hand and she can go 2 hours and do much like Melissa Etheridge. She's great like that too, telling stories. Her songs are stories, and she's got that folk singer kind of thing, I guess. That's where, so the reason I say she's almost better with no band is because she can extend sections, play a verse, and then maybe start going, okay, when here's what I was thinking when I wrote this verse, or almost like, VH1 storyteller style, because she'll do that. She'll just kind of like extend sections, and then she'll think of something funny, or maybe she makes a mistake or something, and then starts, riffing on that or you know what I mean? And then and it makes the show really special, but when you've got a band there, it's more difficult to do that, steering the whole band when you've got, everybody playing and stuff, and maybe you want to extend, but it's kind of like difficult, so there are artists that are really good at doing that too. I guess Springsteen probably comes to mind, or, the extend sections, and they know the hand cues and stuff. The band knows what to do, at the drop of a hat. But anyway, she's really good on her own. And yeah, I just she's tough though. I saw her, we were opening on the tour that I did with her because it was really a bunch of one-offs and then one tour. And the tour was opening for Rob Thomas. And I remember she would get into it sometimes, never with Rob. It was all cool. But the guys on the crew, like, we were technically opening, but it was kind of co-headline. And, they would give her shit about things. Sometimes maybe rightfully so, but, like about going over long sound checks because maybe Rob had gone over and then we would have kind of only 25 minutes to sound check or something or half an hour. And she wanted to go longer. And they would be like, you got to get off stage now. And she would be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'll just get off stage when I'm ready, and they would, there was some of that tension out there, but she obviously kind of almost like enjoyed that, I think. If she could push someone's buttons a little bit, she would do it, and like, so that was my take. Like in a, not in a mean way, maybe borderline mean sometimes. So she told me a really funny story about a drummer that broke his foot because he was hammered one night, but they kind of talked him into doing something, and they were partying after a gig or something. Anyway, he ended up breaking his foot, I think. He could still play though, but it was really difficult. He had a cast, and it was his kick drum foot, and they came out on stage to start the show or whatever, and she would do this thing where it was like just quarter notes on the kick. And she would come out, it was like whatever the band was playing, maybe eighth notes over that, but with this kick. And she just kind of extended it the first night. That this poor guy, with his foot, and they told me that story with a little bit of like an evil, her and her husband at the time were saying like, she was telling me how she kind of like, she was like, it was his fault. He did it, And I just thought, well, so she's like, I just kind of sauntered on stage real slow and looked at him while he was playing. And like, you're going to keep that kick drum going. So anyways, yeah, stuff like that, Fun, though. She was fun. I liked her. Overall, really thought she was cool. I really dug the Eddie pickup video you did. I know it took a lot of work with all the changing out. Yeah, well, we had Avi here, helping us, and he was so helpful with the pickup changes. There's no way I could have done it without that. We managed to do it all in basic. Well, it was 2 days, but I did 3 one night without him here, and then he came the next morning. And he managed to make it so we could do like 20 pickups basically in one day, working from about 10 till 5. And I learned a lot doing that. It was good, McRockland, first time catching a live stream. Nice to be here. Thank you for joining. Appreciate having you here. And Leon, what's up, man? There in the super chat. My God, those active earplugs are exactly what I'm looking for. What's the make and model? ASI something. I believe they are ASI. Yeah. You could go to the Sensophonics. I mean, I should be able to tell you. It should be written on here, right? I think it's called ASI audio. But yeah, the pack here, it's got an input on it so that if let's say you've got a regular, you've got in-ears and a regular pack that would get the Wi-Fi signal from the the monitor desk. Okay, that plugs into this, and then this blends in the ambient sound with the so you can get the ambient mics at any level that you want. And then you can say, okay, now just give me a little hi-hat from the desk, give me a little kick, give me a little of my own guitar. But you can, once you've got these, you can almost approach your mix a little more like you would if you had a wedge, because you can hear. So it's like you just need the things you need, right? You don't need a full mix because you've completely closed your hearing off. So it's pretty cool. And they're not inexpensive, but they're not expensive compared to what they used to be. This system, Sensophonics used to make one that was $2,500, which I bought. And one side ended up going bad on it, and that pissed me off. But anyways, because they wouldn't fix it it's a long story. But I wasn't that happy with the company, to be honest. But this system is only $599, I think, or $699, which for what it is, I mean, it's literally they've cut the cost. Like, it's crazy. And it sounds better to me, I think, than the old one. The mics do, for sure, the ambient mics. I haven't tried it yet, like on a gig or anything, but I'm excited to try it. I think I want to use this with Classic Rock Show in the UK in January. Give it a go, Last tour I was on, a wedge a lot, and I would pull my ears out and just like, because I so enjoy playing with a wedge, but more than, but this might work because I could hear my amp now, hear the drums, and just get I'm gonna give it a go, I think, and see if this is the answer for me. It's kind of one more thing to worry about because you got another pack now, with the ambient pack, but maybe that's a small trade-off, and it'll be a cool thing. So anyways, yeah, what else we got? Here? Pete, difference between EVH 5153 and the BE50. I like some of the EVH amps that I've tried, and I had one, and it was really cool. I think the BE50 overall, like all the channels, at least for what I like, is probably more my thing, to be honest. Like Dave, I really like the way he voices his amps and hears things and stuff. The BE50, to me, the 5153, I mean, there is a lot of gain, a lot of front end gain with all the gain stages stacked up in those amps. So the third channel to me is like, it's really over the top to me as far as preamp gain goes. I tend to like and I did this, in my original 6L6 5150 I had years ago. I really liked the channel 2, the blue channel, a lot. Yeah, I just think that Dave's amps overall, for me, the voicing, I mean, we talk a lot, and we have a lot of similar, that Marshall sound that he knows so well. Like we basically really like the same thing when it comes to what that means, And I mean, he's worked on a lot, this amp, and he's dialed those in, and he knows what I like. And I just kind of, the way he tunes in a Marshall to me just is really, that it's right to me. So that sound, that particular guitar sound, So I just think it's, all three channels. I would say like the channels. I don't know if the BE50, I think that's a 3-channel, right? I would say that it's probably just all the channels are more in tune with what I would like, maybe. Whereas on a 5150, the middle channel is the one that I would gravitate towards. So that's the thing, Damn. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to go down to the bottom here of the chat. Let's see what's going on. Where did you grow up in Canada? I am a Royal Canadian Air Force member, RCF, currently living and working in the Pacific Northwest, originally from Newfoundland. I grew up in Edmonton. So, yeah, from Edmonton originally, and I was there till I was 19. Ben, thank you for your service, by the way. Appreciate that. What's up, homie? And Ben, thank you for your service as well. ASI Audio. Ben's my faithful moderator, of course, and he helps with things like this. I appreciate that, Ben. Hope you're doing good, buddy. Ben's somewhere around Ottawa, right, Ben? Greetings from Greece. Love it over there. Have you had a go with the Fender Tone Masters? I haven't, actually. It's a little confusing because, of course, they've got their original Tone Master amp, and then now they've got the new Tone Master amps. No, I don't do a lot of videos for other amps because I have my own signature amps like this one right here, right? So, I don't do a ton of videos for other, companies and stuff like that on amps. Occasionally I do things, but it's rare. It's rare. I haven't really tried those Tone Masters, but I think it's an interesting idea, like the simple modeling amp that's basically, looks like the ones we're familiar with. And, like it's essentially looks like a deluxe or looks like a super or whatever, but really light and does the one sound thing instead of 4 million sounds on a rotary knob, right? Yeah. KJ Photo, what's up? First time on. Hey, welcome. Great to have you here. We got 463 people online. This is awesome. Lots of you folks here this week. Clips of your gig with Mitch are awesome. Thanks. EVH was the greatest rhythm rock guitarist of all time, and you nailed his feel. Thanks. I still hear things I would like to do better. So I as a part of the hobby of like trying to internalize a style, I really enjoyed doing that gig, but I'm like, okay, next time I would do this and this and this and different things. But thank you, I really appreciate it. I love playing his music, and it is like a it's a very satisfying thing if you can get anywhere close to that vicinity of that feel and groove, And also, I came to realize that it's Eddie, but it's Alex too. It's the two guys and their synergy and them being like from little kids growing up playing together, and the way that they groove is like, so to do it more with like Wayne playing drums, and get to lock into that and maybe just play. I would love to just play grooves with, play that like the Drop Dead Legs groove or whatever. Beautiful Girls is another one where it's like to lock into that and not lose it and just keep the flow going is really tough. But when you do it, it's like magic. So I love his rhythm guitar playing. I agree. And those guys really, I mean, the kind of like, I don't know if I would say peaked because they did a ton of great stuff after, but on 1984, Girl Gone Bad, Top Jimmy, House of Pain, the grooves, the level of synergy they achieved there is just beyond like almost any other rock band that I've like listened to. The Girl Gone Bad, it's like, holy shit, like the feel of those two guys together and all the breaks, and then when they do, it's unbelievable. The whole intro thing, it's high level, it's like jazz or something. It's like they're just tuned into one another, and it's so cool. I don't know, I love it so much, obviously, right? Anyways, really amazing stuff. That's anytime anybody bags on Van Halen, I'm just like, well, you clearly, like, on a musical level, or they just say it's bonehead rock or whatever, it's like, yeah, listen to Girl Gone Bad. Give me a break, It's next level. Nobody even came close, Adnan. Hope I'm saying your name right. I hate it when I screw people's names up. Adnan. I'm sorry if I've got it wrong. You're the man. Would like to know your thoughts on the Goto 510 versus original Floyd Rose. Any difference in tone, feel? Well, I love the 510, and I think it's a really good bridge. But I tend to, I really noticed when I went to the Wilkinson that I like the tone more of the Wilkinson. So I don't know what that is, because it's like, it's a similar bridge with the two posts and the saddles, but vintage Goto 510 or the block saddle, either one of those, I still like the tone of the Wilkinson that we use on my signature guitar a little bit better. So I don't know where that, that's just something to consider, that I think that not all two-post non-locking bridges are, created the same. Nothing wrong with 510. It's still cool, but I just noticed I like the tone. It seemed more resonant to me when I went to the Wilkinson. It just sounded really good. Versus original Floyd Rose. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's a little bit of a nebulous thing, like what an original Floyd sounds like compared to, a 6-screw traditional bridge or a 2-post 510, I guess. But there is a certain, like, I don't know if it's like less sustain or I had a 510 on my guitar that I don't play much anymore, which is unfortunate. I need to get it fixed up and use it more. But my Sunburst Classic, and then I put a non-locking Floyd on it, or no locking nut, but the non-fine tuner Floyd, excuse me, I should say. And I did notice it seemed like almost like if you lose anything, it's like maybe a little bit of weight in the tone, and it seems like a little less sustain. Does that make sense? Like almost like the fundamental. Oh God, this is like really geeky stuff we're talking about here, but it's almost like the fundamental note isn't as, you know what I mean? Like, and it like gets a little more diffuse or something, and then it seems like maybe the high strings are a little thinner or don't sustain quite as much or something. I don't know. What do you guys think? Talk amongst yourselves. Have you ever put a different bridge, like put a Floyd on? Thanks, Adnan. I appreciate the super chat, and I hope that's helpful. If I would try the Wilkinson bridge, for the best of both worlds, try the Wilkinson with the lock saddles that I use, because it sounds great and stays in tune terrific. And, you give up nothing really to me, other than, the extra step of having to, lock the saddle. Maybe you break strings a little more often, I will say it, and it's not like a big problem. It's just like I seem to break strings a little more regularly with the Wilkinson bridge with the string clamped in the saddle. Maybe a little. Maybe I break strings a little more. Maybe a little. Maybe a little. Not nearly enough to worry about, though. I mean, they still last, you know. I change them every 3 gigs anyway if I'm gigging, 2 or 3 gigs. And what was my point? They seem to last in here. I mean, like sets that I have on guitars around the studio, not playing them every day, but they'll last like, you know, months, and then I'll break one. So just a little more. I never used to break any strings really, so it's like now I break them a little, you know, a couple months on a guitar in the studio, and oh, there'll pop a B string or whatever, you know. Thinking of getting a Kramer Beretta custom. What do I think? Dory, sure. I mean, I don't. Is that an old one, or is that like a new guitar that Kramer's? You know, I think they've kind of, you know, seems like they've revitalized the Kramer brand a little bit, and you know, like they're making some stuff again. But I don't know anything about where they're coming from or anything like that, so I don't know if I'm the best guy to ask. Kramer was kind of all over the war, you know, like all over the map as far as like a lot of the early ones were made by ESP, as I understand, and I think some of them were Godin in Canada. Like I don't really get it, but I don't think there was a hell of a lot of guitars where the bodies and necks were actually being cut in New Jersey, being made. So it's, you know, Dave Friedman, he has this thing about the original Berettas that with the necks made by ESP really likes them. And like, I guess that's kind of the one to get, like from when Eddie first started kind of endorsing, you know, and you would see the first Berettas that were, you know, very like maybe made in 83 or 84, 85, like, and then after that, he's not interested, you know, so he's kind of a nerd about those. But anyways, okay. What else we got here? Alan says hardly anyone gives enough credit to Alex Van Halen. I think that is so true. I think he's one of the greatest rock drummers, and he's super underrated. His feel is absolutely quintessentially perfect. It's so important for Van Halen. You know, try and play Van Halen songs with people, and you'll see like it doesn't sound right. You know, many times kind of like AC/DC. You know, although he was way more, you know, busy than Phil, but the feel is like, you're like, you know, oh yeah, I can play that AC/DC song. You're at some jam or whatever, and you're looking at the drummer going, really? Do you really know it? You know, and then yeah, and then they kind of hack their way through it, and it's like, yeah, that's not really actually how it goes. You know, that happens more often than not. If you can find a drummer that can really play like Phil Rudd, it's like, it really feels cool. Joe Barr, I love my PT15 IR. That's awesome. But will the SL67 get me close to the early Van Halen tone as good as the SL68? Yeah, I think so. I mean, 100 watt does sound different, but you're basically right there. I mean, you can hear it in my video. I think I played a little Van Halen in the video I did, you know, probably going on 8 years ago or something now for the SL67. It's a great amp. You know, I have no reservations about the, you know, recommending the 67 for that thing. That Van Halen thing. Yeah. From the new fee. Do you think you'll ever get an opportunity to collaborate with Wolfgang? Oh, I would love to. I mean, I don't know that he would ever have any interest in that, in little old me, but I would be happy to. I don't know, honestly. If he ever hit me up, I would be there. I will say that. Alex Van Halen is seriously underrated. I underrated him for years, but I played Van Halen tracks, and he's pretty easy to follow. He is easy to follow, like, because the feel's so good. Okay, one thing that I will say about some of the best drummers I've ever played with, be it Josh Freese or Matt Logg is another really underrated, incredible drummer friend of mine. When you play with those guys, it's like easier to play guitar because you're not thinking about where the one is, or like even unconsciously like trying to, ooh, I want this to feel good, so I'm going to really lock now. And with some drummers, that feels like it takes a bit of effort. And there's some drummers where you're like, I can play anything right now. And it's like, it's almost like Jimmy Page, where the drums are just so badass, right? And then like Jimmy's kind of a little like all over the place sometimes. Like you can rush a little or pull back or whatever on the guitar, but the drums are just, the groove is so fat that you can do no wrong almost, it feels like, and it's such an amazing feeling like when the drums are like that. So drummer can really make you sound like a better guitar player than you are almost, by being really exceptional. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah. Aquila, play mostly my SG, but I have a Mexi Strat that I wonder about a better trem for because I really like the neck. Vintage 6-screw. You could just try some of the Wilkinson saddles maybe on that bridge. They should fit. That might be a way to go. That'd be a relatively inexpensive mod. I did that on a Godot 510 on my white Classic that's back in my rack back there. You can see the corner of it, I think, actually in the rack. And that really helped that guitar stay in tune much better, putting the Wilkinson saddles just on the traditional 6-screw plate, So that's an option. Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got here. There's a couple Van Halen tunes. His rhythm playing is hard to do. I'm the One, Beautiful Girls, Girl Gone Bad. Parts of a lot of tunes that are, just super badass. What else we got here? This is an interesting statement from Andre. Most floating bridges suck because of programmed obsolescence. They would be way more stable and durable if they changed minor designs. I think that sometimes, maybe metal's not what it used to be or something. And, there's that aspect. I really trust John, like whatever Sir's putting on their guitars, are probably going to be because they last. So they're probably Godot Floyds. I don't know. I mean, he's really concerned about things like that, like knife edges and, like what they're making them out of and stuff. And sort of so look to whatever he's doing because, big companies like that, they don't like warranty returns and problems and, things like that, quality. And I would just pick whatever he's using, really, when it comes to Floyd's. Matt says he's got a Charvel Guthrie with a non-locking Floyd. I think it's a Fender bridge, though, isn't it? Isn't it like a proprietary bridge they make for Guthrie's guitar? Because I know he liked the Floyds, and I think Fender actually makes that bridge for that guitar because they can do things like that because they're Fender. I have a Sir Guthrie with a Godot 510. I prefer the sound and feel of the Floyd. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not the biggest 510 guy. That's why I don't have it on. I did it when we first put out my guitar. It was what was on there. But, that's because that was what was available. As soon as the Wilkinson came out, I gave it a try. And I was like, not only does it stay in tune great, but I like the sound a lot. So that's why I kind of insisted. And I should say, by the way, that it's, like the supply has not always been. Trev's great and they're awesome, but they're a small company and stuff, and getting the bridges has been a bit of a concern at times, and I've had to kind of fight for it. Like, no, that's the bridge I want on my guitar. I don't want to go to another bridge, to the point where it's like, I'm like, kind of like not arguing, but pushing really hard for it, like being like, look, if it means like, if you guys, I don't know, like if we've got to make an investment or something or do something so that these bridges can. I've said I just feel that strong about it, that it's because the sound's good and it stays in tune. I want what I want on there, not because I don't want to put something on there because it's easy to get. I want what I want. It's my signature guitar, right? So, yeah. Kramer coming back. Cocaine sounds. Yeah, I think there was a lot of that going on back then, wasn't there? Back in the day, maybe. Okay. Yeah, this is what happened. Akila's nailed it. They became mostly budget guitars. I mean, it was like a very short window of time in retrospect where maybe they were, quickly we had Kramer Focus and Kramer whatever, like, not long after initially the Pacers, and that seemed like a very serious guitar company for about 3 or 4 years, like in the late 70s, early 80s, when they really, and then Eddie went with them, and it was like, oh, pretty quick, by 85 or 6, we're seeing these Focus guitars. What are these? And then like by I was just like, oh, it's falling apart, I think. But I don't know, or something, right? It's like, DeLorean or something. No, it's not like DeLorean. Not anything like that. Hey man, what's up again? If you had the last minute gig that required you to reach for modeler for an entire set, what would it be? Well, I've been using I like all the modelers, to be honest, for different reasons. The Helixes and I've taken the Helix and used it on things. I've taken the Helix Stomp and used it on things as my backup. It's a great little box. It's a seriously underrated pedal. Fractal, I've used the AX8 for doing the Ultimate Queen celebration. It was my only thing I took on those gigs, So I've used all these things. I'm a big Quad Cortex fan these days because it's easy to use and it sounds great. It's what I just used for those, Van Halen tribute gig that I did. And I also took it the next week after that and did a vampire musical in Wisconsin with it. Completely different sounds, completely different setup, running it only direct. And both things were very successful as far as I'm concerned. So I'm a big fan of that box these days. It works really nicely for what I do, but I like all of these things and I have used them all. That's my answer. Horst, what's up, my friend, over there in Europe? Have a coffee on me. I will do it. Are they really using headphones on guitars at Guitar Center? Back then. Oh, you mean like in the rooms to play or something, to play with modelers or something? Probably. I don't know. I actually recommended that they set up some headphones with my amp because they got the Guitar Centers in the Platinum rooms now have some Sir stuff, including my amps. And so when I went into the Guitar Center Hollywood a while ago, they had a PT100, they had a PT15, and I suggested they set up the PT15 with headphones and or a monitor on top of it. I was like, go up to the recording department, grab a little Yamaha powered speaker monitor and plug it right into the powered out, the direct out with the IRs on the back so that people can sit here and play at low volume and, mess with it, and it'll sell the amp. I guarantee it. So, but I'm not so sure about that. Thank you for the super chat there, Horst. I appreciate it. Both you and Adnan. Thank you guys. Could I recreate the sound of Michael Thompson without the Eventide H3000? Well, I think you can. I mean, I'm using the pitch in the Quad Cortex, and I think it sounds good. I have no problem with the pitch block in the Helix. I think it sounds good. You can do things like plus and minus 9 with it. Like the micro pitch thing. Michael, I think you're saying, I mean, he does the delays with the pitch shifted delays, but you could figure that out you could either use there's ways you can do that, I think, in other units. So I think so. It's just like the original thing is just so easy to go to if an H9 isn't really expensive. Like to get that with the micro pitch, it's like, so you're looking at about as much as an HX Stomp. So 6.5 dozen the other. It's not really, you still need something to do it with. So why not just use the H9? Because it's actually, compared to what it used to cost for a H3000 or whatever. I have a Sir Classic Pro HSS. Love the feel and setup, but when strummed, it sounds flat and dead acoustically. Any suggestions on how to remedy this? Well, once again, you might want to look at the bridge saddles you have on it. Is it a 510? You might have some good luck going to... Wilkinson has a bridge now that has if it's got a 6-screw on it, it probably doesn't. Classic Pro HSS is probably a 2-post, right? They make a 6-screw that's got a different block in it. I have one here. Let me see. Make this. There it is. open it up here. It's never been out of the... This is a Wilkinson with their new vintage style block on it. And whatever's going on with this bridge, I tried this on a Sur that they built with this bridge on it, and it sounded amazing. It was really resonant. John's really into kind of investigating blocks and stuff these days, and what, like not so much the Floyd, like big block and all that stuff, but more like on vintage bridges, to get close to whatever Fender had back. Like if anything's different he's really into like, well, the trees weren't magic back in the 60s or the 50s. And so what could be different about a guitar, from the way I'm making them now, and, one thing that he's looked at is blocks on bridges, I think. And so Wilkinson made this. They built one of these a guitar with one of these bridges on it. And I thought it sounded great. So I've got one here. I just don't have a guitar to put it on right now. But anyway, that's a you might ask Wilkinson, like, can I get that block for a 2-post for a 510 style, or just get a Wilkinson that's a 2-post, and like a similar drop-in replacement for a 510. Barring that, I would say if you want a more modern bridge, try like I say, I noticed even just with the saddles, putting them on a 510, that this bridge seemed to ring more. Like it had better, putting the on a 6-screw Goto plate, I put the locking saddles that I use on my signature guitar, and it seemed like the sound got better to me. More resonant was exactly what I would say. So maybe you just want to try one of those, because they're not too expensive to put on. Certainly the saddles aren't. Have you tried the Vega Trem yet? That same thing. I have that sitting here, and I feel bad because the guy contacted me a while ago. He sent me one, and I'd like to give it a try, but drop in for American 6-screw. Yeah, I haven't put it on anything yet. I should see what I've got around here that I could try it on and put it on. And a couple guitars I can think of that I have a Strat here that maybe I could try it on. So I'll think more about that. There's just so much to do in the week, and it's like that sounds like about 4 or 5 hours of work at least, if it's drop in. I just pull the strings off and the bridge, and you know what I mean? It's like I just have to put the time in. But yeah, I have that Vega bridge here. Okay. What else? There's a super chat there that I missed. You guys, your super chats this week. Thank you. You guys are too kind. Really appreciate it. It's going to keep me in coffee capsules. I got a new machine this week at home. My friend got it for me for a gift, but it's one of those Verturo Nespressos, with the big capsules. I quite like it. It's a really nice gift from my friend Matt Beckley. He was MD on a gig I did, and he got me one of those. Really nice of him. Yeah. So you guys are keeping me in coffee. What's the point? Steven says that he actually prefers the sound of Floyd's. Well, that could be, I think Eddie probably came around to, really enjoy them as well. He never seemed to go back, from the Floyd. So, as a fellow Albertan from Drumheller, I remember that place. You rock. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it, Jason. Appreciate it. I do. Kramer made a guitar with an aluminum neck. I remember that. Back in the day. You guys remember the aluminum neck Kramers with the split headstock? I mean, they were trying different things, I find that period of guitar, I guess it's just because of when I started, but I find it so interesting, like Dean's and the Kramers and the Hamers and stuff. Hamer was making great guitars. Those early Hamer standards and stuff, and the V's and the Explorer shaped ones, they were so cool. I only had one Hamer guitar. It was cool. It was a Chaparral. Talk about Floyd. It had a Floyd that was mounted like this far off the body. It was that was always difficult for me. The height of the bridge off the body was way too high. But, interesting guitar. Do I think the Eventide H9 Max is still an investment? Do I think they're better modulation, time-based effects, all-in-one boxes? I don't know about better. I mean, all-in-one for everything they do, they kind of stand alone, I wish there was more that, like that level of quality. Like I say, I wish some company would get in touch with me and we could do one of these things together, because I would love to have a kind of 4-cable method or whatever, even just time-based stuff all in one box, that I could work on with some company and do some stuff, that where we could put everything in one and do it. Because there's a number of them out there now, I guess. I mean, you can use a lot of these things 4-cable. That's basically what an HX effects is, it's terrific for what it is. But I would just love to do a very, very high end, with some things like maybe physical switches on it for line and instrument level. Things like isolation transformers built in, all these things that, that you need, that you end up having to tack on sometimes and stuff. Not to mention just killer sounding effects, I would love to work on that with some company if they were interested, What's my go-to amp for recording? If I'm in here and I'm doing stuff, I mean, it's PT15 and PT100 are the amps that I generally gravitate towards when I'm making, especially the type of videos you see me make on YouTube, because I'm doing a lot of pedals. And I probably tend to still use the PT100 more, just because I find the PT15 is great the way it takes pedals and stuff, but the headroom of the 100 in this environment and here, the way I'm recording, and the sound of the channel, which is basically just an optimized Fender clean, works great for pedal videos, and I feel like it's what most people want to, they want to know. Like, if anybody's ever like, well, I wish you'd plugged it into a Fender amp or something, I can always say it is. Like, the channel is a Fender clean. You're hearing a Fender clean. Like, if you've got a super or a twin or even a deluxe or something, it's going to be very, very, very similar sound to what my amp does on channel 1. So because of that, I tend to use it a lot around here in videos. This amp right here probably gets used more than anything. With that said, I find myself probably using, like, what do I use next the most? Certainly the PT15, the Marshall 50 watt there, the SL68, and then maybe just after those, maybe that top hat up there for AC30 stuff, because it's got a beautiful clean sound too, and a great, it's great for everything, crunch and clean and all kinds of stuff. If you were to design a signature Les Paul style guitar, what would your aesthetic choices be? Probably the to be honest, John Zora. It's the closest thing to, he did all this stuff. Like, he's such a, it's a reason why I like what he does and work with him, because he's another guy that I just see eye to eye with many times, on most things. The way that he tilted the headstock back at just the right angle, not too much, so that you've got some down pressure on the nut, the way that the strings travel directly to the pegs, pretty much straight string pull. The bridge he chose, which might be Tone Pros, but I think it's the bridge locks, stability, just the way he did things on that guitar, I think was really in line with what I would want, out of a, it's going to stay in tune better. You zero downside and a whole bunch of upsides, to the way that he does things. And it's the same thing that he really did. His guitars are very similar to some Fender guitars, right? Tellys and Strats and stuff like that. But with all the stuff kind of worked out that was issues, like the heel and no string tree. You don't need that, little things like that. Surfer B says, I got to get a pair of those reading glasses. So let me give a little plug for these. Caddis is down in the video description below. There should be, I believe, I put the link for these if you want to get some. They're badass, and they make a whole bunch of different ones. So I love these glasses. I wear them every day now. So just they're rad. These are reading somewhere here. I've got progressives that are 1.5s. I don't know where the hell they went. Maybe they're at home. Oh no, there they are. So same thing, progressives. So you can look through the bottom and look through the middle when you're driving. Anyways, I love them. I'm going to get some different ones, actually, because I want some different colors and stuff like that. But they make other ones that look cool, too, like different designs and stuff. So it's links in the video description for these. Check them out. They're cool. I love them. Get a lot of compliments on them, too. Like, those are cool. I like those. Like, yeah, they're reading glasses because I'm old. Got any Fender amps? No, but I have the Sir PT100. Exactly. You know, that's the thing. I like this little Princeton that I've got here too, though. So I do have a couple Fender amps. I got my old Bassman too. Yeah. Floyd Rose really died with the glam era. Geez, I don't know, dude. There's a lot of new guitars with locking tremolos on them. I don't, I mean, there's definitely a, for a while, maybe it just wasn't a thing that you saw on guitars because guys like Chris Cornell would, mock guys like me if I had a Floyd on my guitar. The story of this guitar I told earlier, if you were just joining when I was playing this one day, and Cornell was like, "Why don't you get a real guitar, so I can hear what it sounds like?" He was just messing around, but I know it was had the guitar just had a regular bridge on it, he probably wouldn't have said that. But this big hulking thing, he had to poke fun at me, didn't he? That's how he was. If you were to move from the U.S., where would you go? Hey, I could go a lot of places, to be honest, but the most obvious would be Canada because that's where I'm from. So that's an easy one because I'm Canadian and American. So I can drive up there and say, "Let me in now. Get out of my way, border officer. I'm coming home." And that would be fine. But, well, I don't know if I'd say get out of my way. I'd probably say, "Hey, how's it going, eh? I'm home, eh?" And they'd say, "Hey, come on in, eh?" But get out of my way would be a little more American, right? Stand out of my way. I belong here. I'm American, for God's sakes. I'm just poking fun at you Americans. Don't get mad at me. I'm American too. I can poke fun at my own kind. But I would love to live in Japan because I just love it there. I don't know if it'd be forever, but I love it so much that I would just love to. There's an element of escapism to it because I find the world difficult these days. So it's like there's a part of me that just wants to go to a place that feels a little bit like another planet that just functions really smoothly. I know there's problems there too, but I'm not that aware of them because I don't speak the language, I want to, and I work on it, but I can't say that I do yet. So there's an element of, escapism to it that I really like that I don't know if is healthy at this point in my life, but I do love it over there. I love the people. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the music. I love guitar culture there. There's nothing I really, okay. It's very, like, okay, you want an adjustment on your food? Like, could I get this with this on the side instead? It's not going to happen. You're not going to get that. Whatever it is, it's a little bit of a like fall in line kind of culture. If I had to make a criticism, that can get a little frustrating sometimes. But when you're used to like, can't you just bend the rules a little bit? And it's like, no, don't even ask. It's a very uncomfortable thing, for them to even consider that, over there. So, but that's one of my only criticisms because it's a really, really beautiful place to be and live. And I mean, I've been there more than a year in my life at this point, a year of my life, if I look at all the trips I've taken there, and I just enjoy it so much. And there was one moment where about maybe 3 months into a trip, I'd been there that long, you would think like 3 months in a foreign country, maybe you're like getting a little homesick or whatever. I remember standing there one day, it was a day off, and I was like going to do something fun or whatever. And I was like looking around going, you know what? I don't really want to go home. Like, I don't really have any desire right now. And of course, I don't have kids and stuff. And it's like, so that's a much easier thing for me to do than probably a lot of people, right? But the state I was in, the place I was in my life at that point, I'm like, I could just stay here, man. I love it, and just make a life here. And so that was remember that moment of realizing like, I think I could live here. And, obviously you've seen guys like Marty Friedman, Paul Gilbert was there for a time. Folks relocate and they do very well and really enjoy it. So I just really like it. France is another place that I've really enjoyed and felt like I could probably live and just be just fine with it. Really like the south of France. When I get down around, Toulouse or Nice or any of those places is really beautiful. And I think I could base out of there and probably really enjoy myself. But who knows? Maybe I would get there and not feel that way anymore after a while. But that's that. Yeah. What else we got here? I'm looking for leaving out of the home, and Japan is very high on the list. Can't say I'm capable enough to get a job over there. I'd say that's the only thing. Probably the immigration and stuff. They're pretty, strict about stuff going there. But Jeff says you're making me want to go to Japan. I highly recommend anybody that it's if you play guitar and stuff, the guitar culture is really fun. Like, the guitar stores and the shows and stuff like that. They're just really in the thing about actually any kind of like subculture, cars. I mean, there's like lowrider culture in Japan that's fascinating to me, where they've kind of appropriated a little bit, from, like, full on like, Chevy Impalas and stuff like that over there. And they go to the wall with it, as well as the fashion and everything. And I find that so interesting, like whatever they're into, 300%, they don't screw around. So if it's guitars or if it's cars or certain kind of fashion or whatever, I think it's really interesting. And just really fun. And food, there's just no half-assing it going on over there. Whatever they do, they go all the way. And I really appreciate that. And just so, generally speaking, folks are so helpful, really intelligent, really polite, and just all those things just add up to just really fun. Come on, man, let's go. Road trip, France to Japan. Hey, I did it. And I'm ready to do it again, but pretty much I've been everywhere in those two countries. Not everywhere, I've never been down to Okinawa. But one of the things about Japan, about getting to play with Tyoshi, was most Japanese people would tell me, like, you've been many more places than I've been in Japan. So I've been from the top to the bottom almost, and everywhere in between. And that's really special. Not how special that is, not lost on me. France, the same way. I've been pretty much everywhere in that country. And would love to go again and just keep going. France is a unique country to me in that, U.S. is a big country where you've got Seattle and Miami in the same place, obviously, or New Orleans and Vermont. This is huge difference in these places in everything, really culturally, and also just trees and plants and whatever the climate, everything's different, right? So Japan's kind of like that too, from the north to the south, and France is really like that. It's one of the other countries you can go to where things really change, and I like that about it. It's big enough that you can still be in the same country, and there's not so much with the food in France, the culture's it's just compared to other countries. It's I guess that's the thing about the U.S. is you get that, it's the magic thing about the U.S. that people trash talk it a lot, but you've got, the food in New Orleans, right? And then you've got, like there's this huge variation and stuff. And that doesn't happen so much maybe in France or in Japan or, but anyways, I haven't said all that. Let's see. This is interesting. Zed says, it doesn't look that way on the map, but Japan is almost as wide as North America if you measure from one end of the island to the other. So you mean north to south as opposed to east to west. Yeah, I mean, it's the three different islands and stuff going all the way up to, super far north. I mean, if you go from, Kagoshima to Sapporo, it's super different. What else we got here? Let's see. Japan is a special place for guitar nerds. I totally agree. The guitar stores are awesome. So much fun. Thoughts on Tremonti's new amp? I haven't really looked at that. I'm sorry. I don't have a great perspective on that. I'm shocked you didn't mention the Gray until UK. So I love it over there. I really do. And that's where that's my heritage, man. I mean, I'm from that. I did the 23andMe thing. And I'm like 99.9%, or 99.7, I think, it's Ireland and Britain. That's where I'm from. So, and I really appreciate that place. And I do really, I remember the first time I went there, how I felt at home when I was a kid, traveling there at about 14 or 16, however old I was, that it was like, oh, this is a place that I can fly to across an ocean. And I actually feel very like, that thing where it's like, oh, this is very familiar and kind of my culture or something. Don't know if I would want to live there. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I hate to sound like it's blasphemous for probably lots of folks in Britain, but I just really like France. Sorry, don't hate me. I just really enjoy it there. But I really appreciate the UK as well. Really like Scotland, and that's where my granddad. My middle name's Scott, and my mother's maiden name was Scott, and his name was Warren Scott, and he's from Scotland. His parents. Okay. Let's see. Japanese language seems difficult. It is. It's difficult, but I find it really interesting, and it's fun to practice for me. So, yeah. Did you hear Sebastian Bach was denied entry to the KISS cruise due to failing to renew his passport? Oops. I mean, doesn't surprise me, I guess. Unfortunate for him, but that's the kind of thing you got to stay up on, right? It seems to me the kind of thing that management should be, aware of. Hey, don't forget, like 6 months before, you need to, it's amazing though. These things slip through the cracks and they happen, maybe he just thought he didn't need a passport to go. Where's the KISS cruise go? Does it go to Cancun or something? Probably, right? I don't know. But he probably just didn't occur to him, I don't know. But that's the kind of thing good management should be. I'm not passing the buck on to them, but it's like, he's a rock singer. Come on. Got to stay on top of your artists for things like that. Generally speaking. I mean, that's in my, as a side guy, I can't screw around with things like that. But the artists are generally, they're a little more, I don't want to say coddled, but, that's what you pay them for, really. You pay them to be on top of stuff like that. So you can think about singing. Is Vancouver the LA of Canada? I mean, sort of, but it's totally different. Vancouver is, there's a lot of film and TV production that goes on up there, which they sort of, built that and cultivated it for many years as being kind of Hollywood North and made it very affordable for productions to go up there. See a lot of commercials that are shot there as well, car commercials and things. You'll see the car driving down the street. And I'm like, oh, I know where that is. It's Vancouver. They do a lot of production up there. As far as music goes, the heyday was really the 80s into the 90s, I guess, of recording at places like Little Mountain and the Warehouse and stuff. But the Warehouse is still there. And, you had all your bands like Aerosmith and Motley Crue, everybody that was going up there working with Bruce Fairbairn and Bob Rock and all those folks. So there was that era. And I don't know if that's really, it's not really such a thing anymore, but and it doesn't have well, I haven't been there in a long time, so it's hard for me to say exactly. But Vancouver is, I always say, the place in Canada a lot of people will move to because it's kind of the warmest climate in Canada, really. Generally speaking, out there on the, it still rains a lot in the winter, but snow's kind of rare in the winter, and so you'll get a lot of people moving out there because it's very beautiful. If you're into the outdoors and doing things, you get more of an opportunity to do that throughout the entire year, as opposed to a city like Edmonton where it can get very, very cold, right? And very, it's just more temperate, I guess is the word. And you've got ocean and you got mountains, and it's a very cosmopolitan city, so you can, what kind of food you want pretty much any time of day you can get. Great shopping and all that stuff. But if you want to be in the middle of a beautiful park, Stanley Park's the biggest city park in North America, bigger than Central Park, right? It's really beautiful. You can go there on your lunch break from work or whatever if you work downtown, and be in nature. It's just it's a really, really outstanding, beautiful city, I think. Probably got its own problems, I'm sure, but like any place, but I really love it. So yeah. So the setup with Mitch for the show, I've had a lot of questions about that, and I know I've talked about it before, but I'll show it again. Essentially, it was this board. So I showed it last week, but I'll show it one more time. You got the Polytune. I didn't use this. You got the Polytune. You've got the EVH flange, phase 90, I just put this delay on here, but didn't use it at the show. I had another one on there that I didn't end up using. I used the delays all in the Quad Cortex. In the Quad Cortex, I put a capture of my SL68, that amp up there, that I captured using the Surreactive load, direct amp capture, no speaker sim, put it in there. And I built presets, which I guess I should make a video about this, right? It would make sense because I get enough questions about it. But I built a way to do wet, dry, wet, basically with a dry path going through the amp. I put a delay in front to mimic an echoplex, put an octaver to mimic the octave sounds, the pitch shifted sounds on like Drop Dead Legs, that video I put up at the end here. It sounds fat, right? It's an octaver switched in. It's interesting how it blends in the sound. But when you hear me start to play the riff at the end, all that's got an octave, low octave, a sub octave mixed in, and it's just killer in this thing. Worked great. The split out of it, came out of there once, just straight out right into a dry cab center, matrix power amp, 3-channel power amp, right? So I took one of the outputs out to the matrix, just with the stuff in front, like the octaver and the echo in front. And then I had a stereo path too going through that, where I was able to add the pitch left and right, plus minus 9, just like an eventide, and a little bit of stereo echo that isn't even really apparent. And what I learned was I should use more of that next time. A little more reverb, a little more echo. I could have used a bit more stuff. Yeah, but now what I learned also was the 3 cabs and doing it that way and miking them. Instead of doing that, the next time what I would do is just go stereo. Kind of like Eddie's rig in around the 84 period, or all the way through the 80s, I think. I don't think he was doing wet, dry, wet. It was loaded down amp, stereo rig with the stereo delays, and so a mixer and stuff like that. So I could do all that with that. So it would be, I think next time I would do it, it would be like 2 cabs with, probably the matrix power amp. And then run. The reason I would do that is just because I think it's enough that I don't need to do the wet, dry, wet thing. And then also I would have 2 outputs left on the Quad Cortex to run speaker simulator to front of house, which I think is a better way to go rather than the mics. So as good as it sounds in the video, and I'm very happy with it, I still think if you hear this thing running direct with good IRs of greenbacks or whatever, it's just even more optimum because I can do more with it. And, there's a lot of advantages to doing it that way. So, stereo line out to front of house with the IRs, but 2 cabs on stage. Don't even need mics for them, just for my own, for feedback and for vibe on stage. That's what I would do next time. That's different. And it would come out sounding really, really similar, maybe just a little better, actually. Lauren's asking about the glasses, the Caddis glasses, blue blocking. I don't think so. I don't know if they've got any kind of anything like that, but it's possible. It's 1:44. Let's go till, because I started a little late, so let's just go till 2, and I'll jet. I'll get out of here. So I'll stick around another 15 minutes. Thank you guys so much for being here. We still got 423 people online. Amazing. Thank you for all the super chats and everything. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. I never know what the hell I'm going to talk about every week, but it always seems like I get talking blah, 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 and there I go. So thank you for letting me ramble. What IRs to get for an early Van Halen sound? I'm a really big fan of the Celestion IRs overall. So the Sir 412 greenback, get some of those. York does great stuff. The York Friedman pack is really good because it's a 412 that's loaded with both vintage 30s and greenbacks, and you can go blends and all this kind of good stuff. But also I have a signature pack coming out with 2 notes. So this is in like a month that it's coming out, and it's got, I can't even tell you guys yet because I'm not supposed to say the cabinets, but anyway, it's got lots of great stuff in it, and there's definitely greenbacky stuff in there, so check that out too, because that'll kick ass. I always learn so much from your videos and channel. Thanks, man. Thanks for the super chat, Alex. Appreciate it. How would you compare the PT15 with a Rev G20? The G20 is the one channel, right, that they make that's maybe got the 2 notes built in, right? I think, the main difference is that, not knocking theirs, I'm sure it's a good product, the main difference is that ours is a 3 channel that gives you, full, kind of basically the Bella clean, so a really nice kind of boutique clean, with then 2 drive channels that let you really dial in a rhythm drive and a lead drive sound. And I don't know what they do for a loop and all that. I just know ours is super properly buffered and is really good, for driving. It's kind of in the middle of pedal level and line level. We kind of picked a medium ground there that seemed to work for most effects. But it's, long story short, you don't have to worry about running long cable runs out to your board or anything, because John takes loops so seriously. So it's a kick-ass effects loop. And then you got 16 IRs in there. So I'm not sure exactly what the features are in theirs, but I think theirs is a single channel, right? So that would be the biggest difference to me. It'd be a bit more of a pedal affair, for your drives and stuff. Whereas mine's got, I'm just biased towards, but it's got a bitchin' Marshally drive in it. That's, your old tube and kicking ass, with the channels in the amp, adding no overdrives or anything like that. So overdrives become a thing you could use or not use with it. Yeah. Eric says, glad I could catch you live. Rough week in my world. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I hope this next coming week is better, bud. We know how it is out there. It's, there's some good weeks and some bad weeks, right? And I just try and be as aware of it as I can these weeks when you're having a good day or a good week, I'm like, today's a good day. Be present. That's why I don't want to look at this thing too much. Don't be in that world. Like, yeah, it's a beautiful day outside. Like today is awesome. Let's appreciate it. Anyway, I hope your week gets better, man. This next coming one. Oh, brother, what do we got here? 2011 American Special Strats. Don't really like the Texas Specials. Replace them with pickups wound by a local guy. Love my Strat now. Cool. Give the guy some props. Who was the dude? Can you buy the pickups from him? I wonder. Let us know who it was that you got the pickups from. Aquila says, I use Celestion IRs. Their T75 pack sounds so good. Essential for the Yngwie thing. The thing about the Celestion IRs I find is that they're not too hyped in the low end. They sound really like a cabinet that's been recorded professionally to me without too much woofy bass or fake, because sometimes a lot of IRs will have a lot of extra stuff in them that maybe I think of them as sort of consumer level, like hyped up headphones or hyped up, things that have, it's like, oh, that's not exactly what, a mic'd up cabinet would either have a lot of that taken out in a real world mix or whatever, it's just like not optimum for, you drop it in a mix and now it's in the way of the bass and the kick drum and other stuff. So that's the thing. And the Celestion ones to me, well, maybe they don't sound as like massive or something as like some of them that are out there. A lot of them that sound massive or don't really work to me in the context of an actual mix. So Celestions are pretty much drop in the mix and you can add a little EQ here and there and it's like, yeah, that's basically it. They sound really, really good in that way. So that's the thing. Hard to go wrong with them, I think. I really like the blends, the Celestion blends. I tend to like, they call them high gain and low gain, but for pretty much anything, I like the high gain blend. It's a little warmer. And they have no sort of shortage of top end in their IRs generally anyway. So I like the high gain blends usually in most of they use a 121, a 57, and a 421. And those are the only mics they give you, which I kind of like, except for the room mics. I like that they limit it. But I tend to like the 121 and 57 blend without the 421. So just the ribbon and the 57. Because you can get the high gain all mix, or you can get the mix of the 421 and the 57, or the mix of the 121 and the 57. And I like the 121 and 57 mix, high gain all, pretty much for any of the different Celestion cabs that I've tried, generally speaking. The PT15 has made all but my fuzz and treble booster redundant. That's what I like to hear. That's exactly what, what I was getting at earlier without, saying that our amp is better than everything, but you really, the drives are, I still use my Archer to boost it, like Klon, fat lead tone thing. So in, little bit of drive from the Archer, mainly volume, using it as a dirty boost kind of thing to kind of give a fatness to the tone. And that's really fun for me. But other than that, I don't need, I could easily do gigs with, if I've got a delay, a reverb, some kind of mod pedal or whatever, a compressor in front, the Archer, a tuner. I don't really need much else than that. I have more stuff on my board, but I could easily get by with just those things. And I can have a board that's this big, I think, and the PT, be rocking. If I was doing AC/DC, I wouldn't need anything, just a tuner. Dylan, thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Travis is saying he wishes Celestion had a floor pedal for the IRs. Well, you can load their IRs in other things. Like, for instance, if you've got a Strymon Iridium, you can load IRs into it, all the way up to 500 milliseconds, actually. So you can use it as an IR loader. You can load the Celestion IRs in an HX Stomp. You could load them, I think, even in the 2-notes stuff, like a 2-notes Cab M. You could load them in a Moore radar all the way down to that. They will get truncated pretty hard, but it would still work. There's plenty of IR loader pedals out there now that you could actually load the Celestions in. Here's one right here. I think this will take. I still have to get my video done for this week. The Boss IR 200. And you could load them in there. Just use that as an IR loader. Yep. Okay. What else we got here? Should I replace my 2006 American Standard Strat pickups? I realize I need underwounds for my fuzz face. Should I get a made in Mexico or G&L to replace pickups? Is the wood much worse? It's, they make great guitars in Mexico. A lot of people use those as their primary instruments. So, how Fender sort of, dictates what guitars get what wood, I'm not sure exactly. That's a good question. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. But if you don't like the pickups in your Strat because they don't sound good with your pedals, you might want to just replace them. But I can see where you're having a dilemma. What pickups are in it that don't work with a fuzz face? That's interesting to me. Because it shouldn't be just, are you saying the pickups are too hot to work with a fuzz face? Maybe if you just back them down a little bit, play with the heights. I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer for this. I feel like I'm not sure. Let's see. If you were doing AC/DC, you would not need anything but a tuner, says Aquila. Well, watch my version of Thunderstruck with Classic Rock Show. That's just the amp. Tell me it doesn't sound good. So, if I was playing AC/DC all night, I would be happy with just doing that, which was PT15, one cabinet, IRs direct to the PA. Listen to how kick-ass it sounds. Come on. Go check it out. Ben, post the link, please. Can you find it for me? Thank you, buddy. Oh, yeah, beer. There's a version of Thunderstruck. You can hear the amp on. I'm very, very, very happy with that sound. That's literally just the channel 2 on my amp, and then I hit channel 3 for the solos. Straight in, cable. Nothing else going on other than the tuner to make sure I'm in tune. Tim says, we know about your Sir model guitars. Did you ever build your own guitars or do your own mods? I used to do everything. I've even done my own frets. I've never hammered in frets or done a refret, but I bought all the tools once to do all the fret work, and I wasn't very good at it. And I discovered I didn't like it. And I went, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore. But yeah, I built a guitar when I was 16, bought a kit neck, and went to a local wood place, bought a piece of poplar, and had it bandsawed out to be basically kind of similar to actually the body shape that's on my signature guitar now. That's funny, but it was the kind of the dinky body shape, 7/8 Strat size. Had it routed, might have done the routing myself for the humbucker, can't remember. But, I had some people help me with it. But I put it together and like, bolted the bridge in the spirit of Eddie Van Halen. It was like, we wanted to make our own guitars, so I had it painted at an auto body shop. And I loved working on my own guitars, doing stuff. Ben found it. There it is. You can also just find it searching YouTube. Thank you, Ben. You can also find it just searching for Classic Rock Show 2020 Thunderstruck. Listen to the tone. Come on. All right. I'm sounding like I'm tooting my own horn. I am, because I'm proud of it. It sounds really good. I'm like, I couldn't ask for the way that it ended up sounding on that track. And Jesse sang the hell out of it. Boy, did he ever sing it good. That's Jesse Smith. Yeah, you can load them in the GT1000 and IR200. That's this box right here, talking about loading IRs to use, Celestion IRs to use. Yeah, lots of sort of third-party IRs and third-party IR boxes out there at this point to load things into. Use the Celestion IRs and your Moore radar. Sound good, right? Good stuff. Yeah. Oh, this is cool. Tom says, I like using the Cocoa Boost with it. I love using the Cocoa Boost too. And I would love to have a way to put one of those on my board to use as well. I'm torn between using that or the CKK pedal, the honey, what's it called? Something or other, sugar, honey, something or other. The one that became so expensive now because it's so limited. But honey badger, honey something. Can't remember the name of it, but I have it here because I made a video of it. And then I thought maybe I'll put that on my board for Classic Rock Show Tour. But then it's either that or the Cocoa. I don't have room for both. So maybe if your amp doesn't need pedals, your amp is too complicated. No, Lauren. No. I like my amp the way it is. It's not that complicated. It's 3 channels, but it's so damn simple, If you can't get a sound within 5 minutes on my amp, then there's a problem. Not with my amp. Anyone play the TC Electronics Mojo? I have not. Has anybody else here played it? The Paul Gilbert pedal, right? It's a signature drive pedal, I do believe. 158. I'm going to split in a few minutes here, guys. Let's see. PT does do the Angus thing. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great, the PT15 and PT100 is a great optimized Marshall, starting with kind of the JCM 800 topology or whatever, basically Plexi JCM 800, but then tuned for gain and drive and to not be, JCM 800s are a little wimpy and a little farty to me. And so it's got all that sorted, it's got the, and as well as it's tight, but still fat and very balanced. Dylan says, great job on Drop Dead Legs. Thank you. You made the outro lead your own. Yeah, I had fun. Yeah, so the process of coming up with that part, I remember I was home and I had a Helix set up at home actually for practicing at home. And it's the most playing I've ever done at home in my new place that I live in. So that doing the Van Halen music was great for me because I was practicing a lot to get ready for that show. And I practiced a lot at home. I would plug in the guitar in the morning, with some coffee and sit down and start playing through tunes there. And then I would come here and do other work and then work more at night here using the quad Cortex, But I came up with a nice Van Halen kind of, not exact, but, a nice sound with the effects and everything on my Helix at home. And I loaded Drop Dead Legs in the, there was a nice instrumental version I found of it on YouTube that somebody put together. I don't know if it was, I don't think it's the album version. I think it was like somebody programmed it or something, but it sounds really good. And it was like a jam track, that you could play the guitar to with no vocals. So I would put that in Transcribe software, right? Though I brought it up last week and somebody emailed me about it. Transcribe is the phrase trainer I use. It's from a company called Seventh String, 7th, Seventh String. Search for that online. You'll find Seventh String software. Transcribe, $49.95, I think. A great phrase trainer. And so I would load up Drop Dead Legs in there and loop the end. I found where I could, a section where I, drew in you can make loops, and I would just loop it and start jamming over it. And I came up with that little sort of loosely based, however long it is. Maybe it's longer than 16 bars. It's probably 32 bars or something. But I came up with a little structure where I could kind of start off with the solo on the record and then go off a little bit and do my own thing. And instead of the kind of the intensity dropping down or whatever, I wanted to build it and kind of, you can hear Wayne, and we didn't talk about that, but it's like, you can hear him as I'm going into the kind of aggressive rhythm part right before I do the tapping stuff. Wayne started doing these cool fills and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, this is totally going where I want it to. And we worked that out in rehearsal. I was like, yeah, let's just vamp on the end for a bit. And then when I go back to the riff, we'll know we'll go another 8 bars and then we're out, And that's how I did it. And I just did it. I would practice it at home on the loop and come up with sort of I was like, okay, there it is. After a couple of days, I kind of had the framework. It took me a minute to get, because he's so in full Holdsworth mode, kind of like by that point in his playing, and so the playing on the outro is so magical with its free jazz kind of. So to get the vibe, I was like, okay, I should learn this lick and then go, okay, now where do I want to go with it? That's enough to quote. Now let's have some fun. Because most of the set, I was really just note for noting stuff from the records. I felt like I was like, you're obligated to almost, but there was a couple moments. I did it at the end of Mean Street too, where I just went off and kind of did my own thing. Very similar. It's actually a very similar part because it's C to D in both songs. So I guess he liked that to vamp over C to D. Anyways. That's that. That's how I did it. And, looping, jamming, just having fun playing, and came up with that thing. Peter, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it, dude. Jumped in late here. You say, enjoyed the travel insights videos this week. I'm going to I've got a list up here, what I got to do. That's this week, right? Sorry, let me see here. Yeah, this week, this guy I'm doing. So the IR200, the number 5 drive, all these pedals are right here on the desk. This one, got to get this done. And the other one that I'm working on right now is this one. Let me show you this. This is fun. This is a Black Star. Look at that thing. 2-channel tube drive pedal. You can see the tube in the middle there. It also has some cab sim stuff built in, so you can run direct with it. I like it most running right into clean channel of an amp. But it's got a little bit of, it's actually got a USB output on it, so you can run it. You can use it as an interface. So plug your guitar into that, come USB out and go right into your, for practice or for whatever you want to do with the cab sim built in. I'm finding I'm enjoying it the most as a 2-channel tube drive in front of a clean amp. That's the sounds I enjoy the most out of it. And it's got kind of some unique features with each channel. You can either run as, well, channel 1 you can run as clean or crunch. Channel 2 you can run as crunch or lead. And you've got a couple dip switches there to kind of change, or not dips, but small toggles that you can change. There's a 3-band EQ bass metal treble and this ISF control that kind of shifts the mids and lets you kind of dial in a different contour really to the sound. So that'll be coming this week too. But I think it's those 3 this week, amongst some other things coming for the week. Week after that will be like, we're getting close to Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and all that. So there's some interesting stuff coming for that week. I should split, I guess, and go get some work done and stuff, you guys. You guys rule. You're awesome. Arthur Gonzalez says he needs a cheap power attenuator. I wouldn't cheap out on it no matter what, but I can't recommend getting a cheap power attenuator. I don't think any of them sound good. So I would just save for the power station, to be honest. Just buy once. It's still not as much as a power station is nowhere near what the old Faustine used to cost, and it's less than a lot of passive attenuators that I think. Like the Tone King Iron Man is really good for a passive attenuator. It's probably the best I've heard. But it's even a little more money, I think, than the power station. I think an Iron Man Junior or whatever, the smaller one, for like amps 50 watts and under maybe or something, I think it's a little less. But I gotta say, I would just save for the power station. That's the way I would go. I'm a big fan of that thing. So yeah. Very interested in the IR200. Can't wait for your demo. Coming soon. What do I think is the best option for a loud tube amp to get a Brown style sound at lower volumes? What would you choose between Variacs and attenuators? Well, the Variac will give you a little bit of volume reduction, but it's like 3 or 4 dB or something. It's more akin to a 50 watt amp compared to a 100 watt, so it's not like a big, it'll help in a You know, if you got a 100-watt Marshall and you variac it, it definitely drops in volume a little bit, but it's still loud as hell. Now the best way to do it is a power station. Beyond that, from Fryette, that's the all-in-one solution for doing what you want. You can even add some effects in the loop, post distortion, get a little echo or a little reverb, and you can really get a great sound at basically any volume. So it's worth the investment if you want to play good, loud, you know, plus it's safe for your amp. It's got a good load in it. So, you know, it's not a thing that you can scrimp and save on. When we're talking about this, we're not talking about thousands of dollars. You know, the power station is, I don't know what it is exactly, $799, $899, $699. I'm not exactly sure how much they are, but it's under $1,000. Compared to what we spend on amps and guitars and stuff, it's kind of minuscule. And the fact that it'll give you the ability to use any amplifier that you get now or later, you know, at whatever volume you want, is just such a big deal to me. It's like, you know, I would spend less on an amp and get that over spending, you know, and you know what I mean? Because amps these days are like crazy, you know. Yeah, I guess it's $899, Ben Tom says, and maybe you can find a used one. You know, I know probably not, but John says PS2 is like 1,800. No, that's not true. It's not 1,800. I believe it's $899. Let me see here. Let's see. I'm seeing them here for PS2 for $799. So PS2, that's the one channel version. $799, John. Come on. Fryette. Let me just look up power station so you can see the different. The PS100 is the one that I've got here, which is $899. PS2 $799. PS100 $899. Then they make the Power Load IR, which is without the power amp. It's $699. It's got IRs built in, but I haven't seen those around. I'm not sure if they're, like, maybe they're shipping those. I don't know. I haven't seen them. Anyways, whatever. Get either the $799 or $899 and just be a happy camper. And trust me, it'll be great. Difference using a power station with separate IR into DAW versus a reactive load with IR. They're both really good. The loads are quite similar. You know, really, really good. The surreactive load is obviously less money. So if you're recording, you maybe only need that. I use the surreactive load for my record. I have both. So I use that one for recording and going into my DAW and doing things like captures. And then I use the power station for playing through cabs. And I use them both about equally, but I've the reactive load strictly for, you know, in my studio anyways, not for reamping or anything like that. Or, you know, through a power amp. It's strictly amps into that, loads them down, either with IRs or without IRs if I want to do it in the computer, line out into my interface. Power station, always in line going to my cab in the other room to lower the volume. So that's how I use them. But yes, there's some redundant stuff going on there. And you can do, you know, I could use the power station to load my amp if I wanted to and do recording with it. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else here while I'm just got into this discussion? I don't want to. So reactive load versus Captor X. Which one did you pick? I love the two notes, guys. That the Captor X is a good box. The reactive load is my personal choice as far as the load goes. It's a, you know, there's no secret at this point. The reactive load, if you were to map the curve, it looks exactly like a greenback loaded 412. Captor X has a U-shaped, what they call a U-shaped curve. It's not exactly like an exact, close in tone and in theory relatively safe as far as I understand, you know. And over the years, you know, a lot of two notes units sold. It's a great company. I'm friends with the owner. I mean, I think they make great stuff. Captor X uses that U shape. It's you know, just so like from a technical perspective, it's less parts. It's easier to actually make and it's less expensive to make. And therefore, thus you see the reduction in cost. And it does a really, really good job. And by the way, it's the same type of load that's in the aux. Just full transparency, you know. Reactive load is a little more complicated the way they do it, and the load in the fret a little more complicated, and it allows them to get that sharper resonant peak that then goes up and down again and falls, as opposed to the U thing. And the upper rise doesn't, it's just a little more. If you plot a speaker impedance curve, the SIR is pretty much dead nuts. The other one that is the fractal, pretty much dead nuts, right on what a speaker looks like if you plot the exact curve. The U-shaped ones, not so much. Doesn't look exactly the same. It still does a good. I'm not an amp tech, but still does a pretty good job and sounds really, really good. I got no issues saying it's good. You can use them. Seems, should be okay. It's not exactly the same sound, though, I will say. So it's a little 10%, 15%, 10% different. So how does the power stage compare to the power station? I think the power station is, what's the power stage? Actually, now I don't know what that is because I'm looking here at their units. They've got the power load and the power station, but I don't see a power stage. Power station PS2 is a single channel power station, right? So just one channel. I believe it uses 6 L6s for the power tubes. The PS100 is the 2-channel that I have over here. It uses 6550s, I think, different output tubes, and it's 100 watts, I think, or close to it, as opposed to 50 watts for the PS2. So a little bit of a different power amp design in it. And with the PS100, you get the ability to foot switch between 2 channels, which I don't use it live, but that could be a big deal. If you're playing a vintage Plexi and you want a solo boost with a bit more volume, you can do that with the PS100 because it's got 2 sets of controls for presence, depth, and volume. 2 full sets of those. Does that make sense? I hope so. With a foot switch jack, also an effects loop that you can foot switch on and off. I think the PS2 has an effects loop too. I think, doesn't it? I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, for the $100 more, it's kind of worth it. I think having the foot switchable thing and plus 50 more watts, it just gives you some more options. Let's see. I like to get a new power station. I have the original. I had the original too. It was great, really good. I do like the new one a little more. I think it's even maybe more transparent. But the original was good. If I had the original and I was like, do I want to upgrade? I mean, I did it. I was like, okay, I can do this or whatever. So I was able to, work out a deal with Stevie or whatever and get the new one. And he actually took my old one back. I made him a video for the new one and stuff like that. But I have not. What am I trying to say? I would have kept the old one and been perfectly happy with it because it sounded great too. It's just a good product. So why don't you use your aux top box? I do. I use the aux. So the aux has a attenuator in it that I'm like, it's okay, but it's more like a traditional resistive sort of sound to me. I don't know if it is or if there's any reactive thing going on, but it sounds more resistive to me. The sort of less top end, the more mids and all that stuff. So I don't use that in the aux. But the load is actually different in it, and it's very much like the 2 notes load, and it sounds quite good. And I use the aux quite a bit for, I was mentioning earlier in the show, my AC30 kind of sounds, especially, or sometimes clean Fender, and especially if I want to use room mics, because the virtual room mics in the aux are great for, if you want a Brian May roomy solo, he uses a lot of room mics in his solo sounds. So if I want anything like that going, or maybe I want to print some effects, because the effects in the aux are great, the compressor, the plate reverb, sometimes I get going in there and I'll make a sound. I'm like, well, this sound is awesome. I'll just print the effects. And so I use the aux. That's why. But coming out of my amp switcher, I've got 3 lines. Line 1 goes to the reactive load from SIR. Line 2 goes to the aux, and then in my recording interface. Line 3 goes to the power station out to my cab in the other room, and I use them all. So, yeah. Does Friat Power Station PS2A have a watt limit for an amp? That's a good question. It would be one I would ask Stevie. I would say I'm confident saying at least up to 100, you're good. 100 watt Marshalls and stuff. He definitely designed it for that. I don't know about beyond that. If you've got a, some crazy like a Marshall Major or something, there might be issues. But you'd have to ask. That's question best asked, to the folks at Fryat for sure. Serious tone question. Tone on Best of Both Worlds. Is it piezo pickup through a Marshall? I haven't listened to it for a while, but I know what you mean. It's got that. I'd be more inclined to think it's a Strat or something. Just my memory of it sounds like position 2 on a Strat, which would not surprise me at all if he did that. He played Strats sometimes. I mean, he used one for the twangy part on Finish What You Started. That's I think like a 57 Strat or something. I think he kind of, he was experimenting more with the lower gain, in between sounds and stuff like that. And then eventually, of course, he got into the neck pickup not too long after that, started using the wah and doing different things. But that all started kind of around 5150. And he started to mess around, at least in the studio, with different guitars. But, he even did that on earlier stuff with little guitars. And when we think about Top Jimmy on the Ripley guitar, not enough people talk about that, how crazy that is. For those out there that don't know, Top Jimmy was recorded with a Bartolini pickup in his Ripley Telly, which the guitar is so cool. He showed me that guitar one day, actually, and he brought it out. And, oh, yeah, I use this. I'm like, oh, my God, it's a Ripley guitar from Top Jimmy. But, it's an unfinished Telly body. And each string has a pan pot, so that because it's the guitar has a stereo output, so you can it's like 6 individual pickups in the Bartolini pickup, one for each string, and then you can pan them to left or right. So if you listen to the guitar in Top Jimmy, it's bouncing around between 2 amps left and right. So he was even doing stuff like that on 1984. Each, one string pan hard left, one string pan hard right. And it sounds so cool. It's like really interesting, Impossible to get that exact sound, really, unless you've got that guitar. And who has one of those? Almost nobody, right? So very creative, fun stuff. Yeah. Nathan says you just learned Spanish fly. That's a challenge, right? But it's fun when you get it. It's really fun once you hone into it and can get there on that. That's one that I struggled with for a long time, and I finally got it. I couldn't pick up a guitar and play it right now, though. I'd have to totally spend a day going over it again, at least. But there is a version of me that I played it, and it's on YouTube on the Classic Rock Show channel. That's fun, that track. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm going to split and go get some food and stuff, then come back here and get some work done. Work on the video for this Black Star pedal. I really appreciate you all. Thanks for your super chat. Thanks for being here. And just have a great week out there. And I will see you soon. Over and out.